Police state sounds the alarm.
What we need is a person, and then we go find out what crime you did.
How did we give the state this kind of power?
Police state, they have their lists. Are you next?
If they're coming for me, they're coming for you.
Police state, buy it or stream it now at salemnow.com. salemnow.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Our dry weather pattern continues today, but a weak cold front sneaks by this morning, bringing some clouds and slightly cooler air. So a mix of clouds and sun with a high this afternoon around 43. Partly cloudy tonight, down to 26 early Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny, back up to about 41. Friday looking dry as well, but we're still watching for a little light rain, possibly mixed with some wet snowflakes this weekend. The snow will not stick to the pavement, so no significant travel impact expected. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Fox News commentary.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams has a solution to ease the border crisis, keep his beloved migrants in other states. Good try, Eric. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer's skills in these matters, and that's why it's so important to hire someone that has those skills.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood Parkway, Suite 310, Town and Country, Missouri, 63017. CordellCordell.com.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams is in over his head dealing with the ramifications of embracing sanctuary city status. He's recently signed an executive order requiring charter buses full of illegals to alert the city's emergency management office 32 hours before arriving in the city. His order also limits bus drop-offs to between 8:30 a.m. and noon and to a single location. Punishment for flouting these new guidelines could result in criminal charges, fines, lawsuits, and buses being impounded. Wow, it sounds like the man who once welcomed and applauded illegal immigration is now changing his tune. But guess what, Mayor? Border cities and states don't get 32 hours of notice when illegals waltz across the open border. They also don't have the luxury of keeping them confined to a certain block during a specific time frame. You reap what you sow, and these liberal mayors ought to feel the pain of their own policies. I'm Tommy Lahren.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
My point about the governor there, it is absolutely about power.
I read this, I almost fell out of my chair.
News Talk STL.
This thing is just absolutely dripping with iron.
News, analysis, opinion. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon and welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here on this Happy Hump Day Wednesday. Also, the first day of the Missouri General Assembly's second regular session here on January the 3rd, 2024. We, of course, are at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. But more importantly, for our purposes today, Chris Arps, we are live from the third floor of the Missouri Capitol Rotunda. You know, Chris, I've been in this building more times than I can imagine, and every time, you probably have this feeling, when I sit in this space, in this building, it really all brings it home, the magnificence of the people's house and of what gets accomplished here, or what hopefully gets accomplished here year in and year out.
Exactly. Tim, it's great to see you here at the Capitol. You know, I have probably been to, in the last few years, probably 7 or 8 state capitals. And I'm just saying this because I'm a homer. But we really do have one of the nicest state capitals. They all pretty much look the same kind of Roman architecture. But ours is a really nice state capitol. I'm glad to be up here with you. As you said, you've been to a lot of opening ceremonies. I've been to a few. Is this the warmest opening day that you have been to, and usually it's 12 degrees outside.
It is trending, Chris, on the warmer side because, as I always say, where else would you want to be on the planet other than Jefferson City in January? Probably a lot of other places. Nothing against our lovely home state of the Show Me State, but now we know why there's so many snowbirds in Missouri that right now are probably in Fort Lauderdale or Tampa. So, no, it is a rather – I mean, tell you what, for January, it's rather pleasant. I know it's going to be a lot colder heading towards the end of the week. Steve Templeton and the gang at KMOV, of course, our weather partners, telling us that. But no, it's a pretty good day. And Chris, there was so first of all, for anyone who has not been to our Missouri State Capitol, if you are a Missourian, please come and visit. Bring your children, bring your grandchildren. This is a living museum. It really is. Yeah. It is a huge place. As you said, it's very beautiful. All of them. I learned a lot of things about the Capitol when I was here. You know, I really miss him. Former Speaker, former Senate President Ron Richard probably knew more about this building than any other elected official I've run into in recent memory. He really studied this building, and one of the things I learned from him was that every single piece of material in here, Chris, with the exception of the marble, because we don't have a lot of marble in Missouri, all of the other materials came from the Show Me State. Isn't that really amazing? The limestone and the wood and everything else. It's a beautiful, magnificent place. Please bring your kids here, bring your grandkids here, bring your family and friends here because it is a magnificent place to see. And today, though, Chris, not a lot of pomp and circumstance because we're in the middle of the what's called the regular session. We're in part 2, so there's no legislative balls today. There's no pomp and circumstance, but all the legislators are here. They reported for duty at high noon, and they kicked things off in both chambers.
Tim, if I had one complaint about the Missouri State Capitol, I would have to say it's the lighting. It's just always just so dark in here with these old lamps. I wish they had more modern lighting, a little more lit up. But other than that, it's a beautiful place. And we've got a big show today.
We do. It's almost as if that you and I and Senator Ben Brown, who just sat with us, and his chief of staff, Frank, it's almost like we're going to have a nice romantic dinner together here.
It does.
With this very ambient lighting. No, we are live in the Missouri State Capitol. As Chris said, we have a full agenda. We have a bunch of planned guests from state senators to state representatives, leaders in both chambers. We have statewide officials who are going to be stopping by. So we've got an exciting show. That's why we added an hour, 3 hours of programming today. Yep, we're on here a little bit early today. And we preempted Columbo and Katie, but they were happy to have the time off.
They preempted us last week.
They did. They did with their goofy variety show. No, I love Tony's variety show. I love it. It's great. It's a great show. So we got a lot of folks to get to. Let's kick it off right ways with you know what? I just realized this. I have my state senator sitting here. So I'm well represented here in the Missouri State Capitol. Missouri State Senator Ben Brown. He has served an entire session in the Missouri legislature. He came back for round 2, and he's now a grizzled old veteran. So, Senator, welcome to you. Happy New Year. Thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be back on the show, and it is an honor to be back here at the Capitol. You know, I think back to my first days coming in here just as an activist before I ran for office, and it truly is an all-inspiring place. So I just feel incredibly blessed every day to walk in here and come to work.
Ben, why don't you tell us and our audience, tell our audience, all of News Talk STL Nation, what are your priorities for this year? What as the calendar was turning and you were putting together your legislative agenda, what have you and young Mr. Catanzaro here have in store for the people of Missouri that's going to help us be a better state?
Well, we have 18 bills that I pre-filed. Really, the areas that I'd say if you want to narrow it down to 3 main categories I try to focus on, it's ensuring that our personal liberties are protected. We saw during COVID, there was a lot of government overreach. That's how, as you know, I got my start and got involved as an activist, which led to me running for office. I want to ensure that Missouri is competitive in relation to our neighboring states. You know, we're dealing with a workforce crisis in the private and public sector. The only way we get out of that problem is to grow our way out of it. We need people to move here. We need it to be an enticing place to move your family. So, you know, that involves reforming tax policy, cutting red tape, allowing people, you know, if you're in another state and you're licensed, making that easier to move here and apply that real world experience to being able to perform in your trade here. And also defending our elections. You know, I have 2 bills that pertain to that. One, Chris, I know that you're familiar with that would prohibit these ranked choice voting schemes in the state of Missouri, and also would ensure that only U.S. citizens are permitted to vote in our elections going forward. The other election-related bill I filed is something that I know I've heard discussed on this show before, is initiative petition reform. We have a major issue in our state. We have out-of-state interest coming in, pumping millions of dollars into these marketing campaigns, hiring these groups to go out and collect signatures, and essentially buying an amendment to our Constitution. That's got to stop. I think the IP process is important, but we need to ensure that it's representing the will of Missourians and not out-of-state interests.
Senator, the talk that we're hearing from a lot of the political talking heads about Missouri politics is that it's an election year and probably not a lot is going to get done this session. What is your prediction?
You know, I consider myself a relatively optimistic person. Some might find it surprising. I still do so after one complete year in the legislature, but that's just the way I've always been. I think that there certainly are going to be challenges, given that it is an election year and you have people that in that chamber that are running against each other. But I'm still optimistic. You have to. What's that saying? It says, expect the worst but hope for the best. So I'm going to hope for the best, and I'm just going to keep grinding forward and putting in the work as if it was any other year, and see if that maybe it will bear fruit, maybe it doesn't. But if you're not out there grinding and working towards a desired outcome, then the one thing you know for sure is you're never going to get there.
So folks, we're speaking to State Senator Ben Brown of the, is it still the 26th or did it get renumbered?
It is the 26th.
Okay, still
we just lost some of St. Louis County and moved out and added, we have Osage and Warren County now.
Big chunk of the state starting in Eureka and then heading westward all the way, almost over to the Capitol building, right? Like pretty close by here. Senator, you bring an interesting mix of real world experience and political acumen to the Capitol, because a lot of folks may know you from, as you mentioned, all the work you did during COVID to try to keep your business open, Satchmo's Bar and Grill in West St. Louis County, trying to keep people employed, and then you joined the political world. There's a problem, it seems, within this building, and there's a lot of criticism from both people within this building and from the grassroots and the voters outside the building that the leadership in both chambers is not using the strength of their majority effectively, right? We got these huge supermajorities. They honestly could do whatever they want, but it seems like there's a lot of personality conflicts, and people are letting that get in the way of passing good legislation. You're a guy who likes to, your conservative bona fides are unquestionable. Are you a guy that can work between all the different factions and try to get leadership to move the ball down the field on tax cuts and labor issues and regulatory reform and all the other matters you mentioned?
That's something that I am constantly I have worked towards, and I'm going to continue to work towards. I've always been the type of person that can get along with just about anybody. That's why I got in the restaurant business. You kind of have to be a people person to go into that line of work. And, I think that people see I come to them with a concern or a policy I think is important. I think that they see that I'm sincere. I don't have ulterior motives. I don't really have any big political ambitions. I never would have said you were crazy a couple few years ago if you told me I was even doing this. So I just want to try to make a difference for the people back home. And, that means working with leadership, working with, any other groups within the Republican Party, or even people on the other side of the aisle, anyone that I can work with to try to advance the policy I feel is best for the people of our state. I'm going to do just that.
Senator, one issue that is going to be getting a lot of attention and a lot of focus this year is the gambling bill. It 2 sessions in a row, it hasn't gotten across the line. For our listeners, what is the hang up with this bill? Why isn't this passing? Because it seems like everyone wants it. I'm not a big proponent of gambling. I don't do it personally, but if someone wants to do that, I think it should be their right, and we shouldn't be giving that revenue to Illinois and all these other states. But my question, what is the hang up with this?
Well, yeah, I think that that's less controversial, and what's gotten kind of intermingled with this are some of the gray machines, I guess you would call them, the gambling machines in some of these gas stations and other places. And I think that the fact that those bills have been intertwined and there are very strong feelings whether those issues should be together or debated separately. And I think that that's really where the divide lies. So, I think that if we get on the same page about whether that should be included or not, I think that would be a good starting point. And I think that that's really the big obstacle right now.
Speaking of Senator Ben Brown of the 26th Senatorial District, Eureka and parts west in mid-Missouri, here in the state of Missouri. He's in his second year of his very first term. Senator, let's talk education. We saw during COVID an explosion of parents getting more involved in their children's education and being shocked by a lot of what they saw and what they learned. number one, has that momentum continued to the present day with parents wanting some change in the system? And what can be done within this building? Again, I'll be tough on Republicans here. It's honestly a faction of Republicans across the state, some in the suburban areas, some in the rural areas, that would rather do the wishes of what I believe their superintendents and school boards want them to do versus what the parents want them to do. Is the time still ripe to try to get some educational choice through so parents can make decisions about what's best for their kids' education?
I think that it is. And, I always compare it, the idea of choice in education is just like anything else. In a system of economics, we frown upon monopolies because without that competition, you lose accountability to the consumer. The result of that is a degradation in the quality of the product and, in a lot of cases, skyrocketing prices. I think that what we've seen in education is a deterioration of the product. And unfortunately, that product happens to be our children's education. I filed a bill that would expand charters in our school, give parents more of a choice. I refiled a bill that we were about one vote away from. We passed out of the Senate, and we're very close in the House last year, that would allow homeschooled students to participate in extracurricular activities, seeing as that, the parents taking on the additional burden and expense of homeschooling at home, you're still paying the taxes in the system that are funding these programs in the first place.
Is there opposition to that?
There were, we passed in the Senate, I believe, 32-2. So overwhelmingly, I believe this bill's been filed for many years. It was the first time we got it through the Senate. In the House, there was a hang up. There were some amendments added. And as you well know, Tim, anytime, things get tagged on, it might, bring some people on board, but it could also push some people away. It made it a little bit more controversial. So, we're hoping this year's the year and we can get it through. And just really, it's the right thing to do. Watch the committee hearings and watch these 10, 12-year-olds come in talking about what it means to them. The letters I got from them, kid that drove 2 hours with his grandma to bake me cookies and just tell me like how important that bill was to them. The lobbyists aren't the ones that give me pressure in this building. It's people like that 12-year-old kid that come and drive 2 hours to visit me. That's real pressure.
Fantastic.
Senator, as you know, crime has been an issue in St. Louis City, St. Louis County, Kansas City. It has not been as big of an issue since Kimberly Gardner resigned and there's a new circuit attorney, but crime is still an issue. Are there any bills that you're sponsoring or that you know of this session that's going to be introduced to address crime?
None that I filed specifically, but I believe that there was a similar bill filed that would take control of the police away from the local municipality. And I'm sure there were some other bills as well. I haven't had opportunity to go through all of them as of yet, but I know that this is an extremely important issue.
What's your view on it? Local control.
I think that we need to, if putting control somewhere else is going to allow us to keep our streets safer and stop people from getting executed in broad daylight and having videos to go viral and pushing companies out of our city, I think that's what needs to be done. I think that we need to be doing everything we can to ensure that criminals are being held accountable and that our police, our heroes out there in blue, are being supported.
Senator, if you don't mind, I was going to ask your chief of staff a question here before we wrap up here. He sat here very he did a good job.
He was tan than I do.
He was behaving himself. Frank Catanzaro, your chief of staff, not only is your chief of staff, but he also heads up the St. Louis YRs, the Young Republicans, and does a lot of national work, the Young Republicans. Frank, quick political question for you as we head into the 2024 election cycle. Going to be a big kahuna this year.
That's right.
Are Chris and I being a little bit older than you? We're sometimes a little rough on the younger generations because we're afraid of what we see. Are there enough young people out there, Frank, that you and the other young Republicans are bringing into the fold that we shouldn't maybe be so terrified about the nation that we're leaving behind? Are there young people that want to save America, and are they going to be involved in the process?
There are, Tim, and I can tell you that we encourage all young people between the ages of 18 and 40, come out, get involved with your local Republican club. We have the St. Louis Young Republicans. We are growing so much over the last few years, and we are just trying to get more people engaged in the process. And I can tell you that millennials, Gen Z, and the next generation coming, they are fed up and tired of government having so much control in their lives. And we're seeing the impact of that. We're feeling it. I can tell you so many of my peers can't afford a mortgage, can't afford to buy a house. They're seeing all their expenses go up just like everyone else. And it's a time for change, and young people are fed up. and they just have to get involved because we can change the direction that this country is heading in.
And Frank, I just want to say this. Tim and I have attended a couple of Young Republican events. I was a Young Republican a long time ago. We've seen the polls where Donald Trump is polling at 20% among African Americans. I have seen more African Americans at a Young Republican meeting at your meetings than I did 20 years ago when I first joined. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think there's so much energy right now around the Republican Party, and we're bringing so many new people into the fold, and I think that's exactly what our party is meant to be. And people are seeing the mistakes. You know, you have folks that may have been voting Democrat their entire lives, and they're seeing how damaging that has been to their personal finances, to their job opportunities, and they're fed up and they're ready for a change. And we welcome folks that are thinking about becoming Republicans and getting more involved.
And the thing that I like about that one thing, Tim, is, you know, you're not changing the message for African Americans or any type of minority. Good education for your children, saving enough money for retirement is universal.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, our message has never changed as the Republican Party. People are just waking up and realizing that we have the right policies to get this country back on track, and we look forward to getting more people involved in the process.
Frank, where should folks go if there's youngsters or people who have youngsters in their lives? Where should they go to find out more about the St. Louis Young Republicans?
We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. And we're called the St. Louis Young Republicans. Visit us at stlyrs.com.
Excellent. Senator Ben Brown, how can folks reach out to you, follow you on social media, or contact you here at the Capitol?
Well, for any constituent issues, I encourage anyone to reach out to my office, ben.brown@senate.mo.gov, or you could find me across social media at Brown from Missouri, on Twitter at Ben Brown Tweets.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your service, Senator, and Frank for yours as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for helping us kick the show off proper like here at the Capitol. Thank you very much. We're going to continue, Chris. We've got a whole lineup of folks here. I see former state senator and candidate for lieutenant governor Bob Onder standing off on the side talking to some folks.
Did you just say proper like?
Yeah, I did say
wow,
proper
I
like.
hear you, man.
Yeah.
I like that.
Where did I get that from? Did I hear you say that?
I don't know. It was really hip and cool there.
There's a lot of young people here, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they rubbed off on
it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we're going to speak with the good Dr. Bob Onder next here as the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show rolls on from your Missouri State Capitol here at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
The media.
101.9 and 94.1.
They lying about what's going on in America. They lying about it.
News Talk STL.
I got an email which brought a smile. A woman named Mary wrote me, "We are purchasing a new roof from John Beal based on your recommendation." I thanked her then. I do it again now. Mary, I only endorse clients I believe in, and I've been a spokesman for John Beal for 10 years. It's all about trust. So if, like Mary, you need John Beal, trust me. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Well, looky. The Harvard president, Claudine Gay, resigned. No kidding. 6 months, 2 days into her presidency, makes her the shortest president in Harvard's history. And she also informed the Harvard community, "I've been subject to personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus." Oh, I see. She's going to play the race card. She goes on to talk about a heavy heart but a deep love for Harvard. I'm stepping aside. Not one word of an apology. Not one word of an apology. Meanwhile, the university itself put out a statement saying nothing. They did add that we are known for our free speech, which is ironic. Harvard was named 2023's worst school for free speech. And then on Monday, the Harvard president got hit with more plagiarism. Now nearly 50 cases of plagiarism. She didn't even bother mentioning that issue. And then you look at the University of Pennsylvania president. Yes, she did resign because a donor was going to pull money. Well, the donor is now saying, The fact that she's still going to stay on as a tenured faculty member, that doesn't solve the issue. You're simply rearranging chairs on the Titanic. Ditto Harvard.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Ackerman Toyota has the 2024 models. You're going to be impressed. Check them out in person at Ackerman Toyota, Hampton and Interstate 44. In fact, you've got to see the 2024 Toyota Sequoia. Very impressive. This is the time to buy and get top dollar for your vehicle. Looking for pre-owned? Ackerman Toyota can also help you. Ackerman Toyota at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter.
Hi, it's Todd Showalter from The Right Mind Show, where we put the fun in our dysfunctional world. And there's nothing more dysfunctional than the holidays. Crowded malls, drunk relatives, and of course, the holiday fruitcake, who I refer to as my Uncle Bob. So join me and my buddy Joey B this Saturday, won't you? Hey, it's better than kissing Grandma under the mistletoe.
The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Saturday evenings at 5 on News Talk STL. Brought to you this holiday by LiberalJoke.com.
Great news for my sponsor, Napoli Sea. And it's no surprise to me, nor hundreds who have dined there. The first time I entered, it was clear Napoli Sea is unique. The decor, the fish, imaginative cocktails, and of course, Napoli Sea is right next door to Napoli 3 in St. Charles. Napoli 2 is in Town and Country. The original Cafe Napoli is in Clayton, and I'm honored to endorse each of them. Visit any of the Cafe Napolis.
Are you a natural leader driven by the desire to make a lasting impact? Is your deepest calling to be an elected official, making a real difference? Now, picture yourself with the power to shape the future in St. Louis City. St. Louis needs your leadership now more than ever. The urgency is real. The Republican Party, City of St. Louis can help you file, be your guiding force, and support you during the campaign. Contact stlouisrepublicans.com and step into your destiny.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Vincent's Jewelers carries a full selection of lab-grown diamonds and jewelry containing lab-grown diamonds. Lab-grown diamonds are a great alternative to natural mined diamonds. They have the same physical, chemical characteristics of a traditional diamond. Beauty, durability you want, but at a 70 to 90% discount. See them in person at Vincent's and at vincentsjewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Wednesday at 9:25, we will play the Be or Not the Be with the game's creator, the one and only Paul Kurtman joins us as our contestant.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It is 3:30. Usually don't say 3:30. We're on usually from 4 to 6, but this is a special edition. We are at the state capitol for the opening session. And with us, joining us, is a friend of the show. You've heard his voice many times, Dr. Bob Onder, former state senator and a candidate for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. Welcome.
Hey,
Dr.
Chris,
Bob.
it's great to be back.
You know
Thank
this
you.
building well, don't you?
I do. Although I had trouble finding a bathroom a few hours ago, but I'm oriented to the place now.
Exactly. Well, you know, it seems like the opening salvo for the governor's and lieutenant governor's race is this issue of foreign ownership of land. The governor had a press conference yesterday with the current lieutenant governor, now running for governor. Talk about that issue a little, Dr. Bob.
Well, that's a really huge issue, Chris. You know, there are issues that, sneak through, on a bill, a big omnibus that has 25 provisions in it. This idea of foreign ownership of Missouri farmland wasn't one of those issues. All the agriculture groups, the Farm Bureau opposed it. For heaven's sakes, the governor even vetoed it, and the bill got overridden. And basically, a handful of lobbyists representing, an American pork producer, they wanted to sell out our farmland to the communist Chinese. And by the time of veto session that year, that was well known that the communist Chinese buyout of thousands of acres of Missouri farmland was well known. So the swamp prevailed, and many of those folks who voted for that horrible piece of legislation back in 2013, they're on the ballot this year, including one of my primary opponents for lieutenant governor. So we need to clean this up. we need to once and for all make it clear that our foreign enemies may not own any Missouri farmland, and for that matter, foreign ownership of farmland, I think, is a mistake in general. So much less 350,000 acres, much less land adjoining military bases.
And that was my follow-up question. Is this a ban on all foreign ownership of Missouri land? If we have like an ally of the United States, would they be able to buy land?
Look, up until 2013, there was no foreign ownership of Missouri farmland whatsoever. But what would I force divestiture on?
Sure.
Our enemies, absolutely, for sure. And the Chinese communists should not own a single acre of Missouri farmland.
I agree.
And, Senator, back in that 2013 vote, because let me tell you, I was here in 2013. I was speaker. I turned out in 2014. And if I ever run for office again, they'll use that vote against me because everybody in this building voted for it. Because, Senator, we were told that the bill that was before us was to save Missouri farmers.
Yeah.
And the lobbyists and the special interests who were representing what we thought were Missouri farmers, Smithfield Farms and others, said that we have to have this piece of legislation to save Missouri farming. Well, we passed the bill, and then within a few months, they're selling the entire company and the land to the communist Chinese.
That's right.
We were lied to. But Senator, my point is, though, in the ensuing years, the folks who are now having press conferences about this and making a big deal about this, they've had 10 years to fix this problem. They've been in the building since. They've failed to do so, haven't they?
And many of those people have had positions of very substantial political power in those 10 years. This legislature has passed agriculture bill after agriculture bill, real estate bill after real estate bill, and they didn't say a peep. And now that their opponents are using it against them in elections, now all of a sudden they have a come to Jesus movement and they want to do something about the Chi-Coms owning Missouri farmland.
Senator, of course, illegal immigration is a big issue. We've got a 12,000 person caravan headed to our border. It's gotten so bad in Texas, of course, that the governor is sending these people to Chicago and Illinois. They can't handle it. Talk about illegal immigration and what role would the lieutenant governor have in trying to stem that happening here?
Yeah, Chris. Well, that has been a huge issue for me for a long time. I was to paraphrase the country western song, I was fighting illegal immigration before illegal immigration fighting was cool. Back in 2008, I passed and Governor Matt Blunt signed into law what at the time was called by FAIR and others the strongest bill in the country, state bill in the country to fight illegal immigration. Speaker Jones was with me at that time. We were both brand new freshmen when we passed that bill. And it banned sanctuary cities. It ended catch and release of illegal aliens, and it held public contractors accountable so that they couldn't use taxpayer money to facilitate illegal immigration. We need to do more, though, now. Now we have the Biden administration trying to force illegal immigrants down our throats. And I think we need to do a lot more. And I think including what Governor Abbott did and what Texas did, which is make it a crime to be illegally present in the state of Missouri. Because if the Biden administration will not enforce immigration law, will not keep us safe, not only from illegal aliens, but criminal illegal aliens, fentanyl traffickers, and human traffickers, then Missouri needs to step up and protect its citizens.
Folks, we're speaking to former Missouri State Senator Dr. Bob Onder. He's at Bob Onder Mo on Twitter. He's with us here at the Missouri State Capitol on the first legislative day of the second General Assembly's regular session. Senator, you served for 2 years in the House, 8 years in the Senate. You did a decade of public service. You escaped here with your health, your integrity, and your family intact. You and I have talked about this privately. Besides falling and hitting your head, what made you decide that you need to jump back into public service and run for lieutenant governor? What's inspired you to make this decision at this critical juncture in your life?
Well, Tim, it really is about public service, and it really is about being concerned about my children and eventually my grandchildren. You know, Missouri has so much going for it. We're at the crossroads of the nation. We're at we have a strong industrial base. We have an incredible agricultural economy. We have pharma. We have tech. We have great education institutions. We should be kicking butt nationwide. And yet, in the last 20 years, we've lagged by a factor of 50%. The nation as a whole in economic growth, our population growth has been stagnant. We're only 21st in terms of how conservative our legislature is. We could be doing so much better, you know, because so for the future of our kids, our grandkids, so that they can come here and pursue their dreams and pursue their careers, raise their families. I just had to get back in the race. I certainly didn't like some of the alternatives running for the position of lieutenant governor. And I think we can do so much better than we've been doing the last 20 years.
We are speaking with Dr. Bob Onder, former Missouri State Senator and candidate for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. Senator, traditionally, the Lieutenant Governor's office has been the advocate for senior citizens in this state. How do you plan on improving upon that when you're elected, and what other things are you looking to pursue as Lieutenant Governor?
Yeah, the lieutenant governor has a number of important duties. First and foremost is filling in for the governor when the governor's absent for whatever reason. Secondly, presiding over the Missouri Senate. And I've been a leader in the Missouri Senate as a senator, and I will be a leader as the lieutenant governor. No, it's the position pertaining to seniors is very important. As a medical doctor, I, of course, take care of many seniors. I think we, you know, have a lot of issues in this state. We badly mistreated seniors, for instance, during the COVID pandemic. You know, in the name of quote protecting them, so many of our elderly folks spent time in the hospital, in the nursing home, and even died without the support of their family or friends. We can't use our seniors as just you know a political pawns to you know to do whatever the big you know hospital industrial complex wants to do with them, the way they did, for instance, in New Jersey, California, and New York. No, I will definitely be an advocate for seniors. I have a 93-year-old father and a 86-year-old mother, and we need to do better by our seniors.
Bob, you mentioned Missouri sits at one of the major crossroads of America, and Missouri has been at that juncture, literally and figuratively, right, for the last decade or more under Republican supermajority rule.
Right.
And isn't it true that we as a state, our governing philosophy, we can look to the failed big blue states and the economies of the North and the East, or we can look at the more successful booming economies of the South and the West. We haven't necessarily implemented the policy proposals that they've done in the South or the West, have we? I don't know for what reason other than just a lack of leadership, but that is the way to move our state forward, right? To emulate Florida, Texas, Tennessee, and Oklahoma, and to not do what New York and the Upper Rust Belt have been doing, right?
Well, there's no question about that, Tim. You know, when you look at, Ronald Reagan once famously said, when government expands, liberty contracts. And if you look at the budget of the state of Missouri over the past 5 years, it has grown from $26 billion with a B to $51 billion with a B.
Amazing.
I would ask your listeners, have your family incomes doubled in the last 5 years, but the size of Missouri government has doubled. And what have we done? We have expanded welfare programs. We've expanded Obamacare. We've expanded Biden care. We've expanded food stamps. We've expanded TANF welfare checks. And then some of the pork barrel earmark programs, just flushing money down the drain. We need to get back to fiscal conservatism. We need to return money to their rightful owners in the form of tax cuts. We need to get wokeness out of education. Only 30% of our fourth graders are proficient in reading and math, but they're being taught the 18 latest genders. So we need to take back Missouri education. We need to take back Missouri's economy, and we need to fight crime. I mean, if your listeners in the St. Louis area, give me a break. We were talking in the city of St. Louis about how to waste federal COVID money, and yet they can't hire enough police officers to enforce the law. So we need to get back to the basics of what government should be doing, but we need to shrink government and let people have more of their hard-earned money back.
Senator, this is a basic question that we pretty much ask all of our folks that are on the campaign trail. What are you hearing from the voters out there? What is their main concerns?
Well, we're having a great reception from voters out there. Last month, we did a campaign swing, 7 cities in 3 days. I'll be doing a kickoff in my home county of St. Charles this Saturday. I'm hearing exactly what we're talking about today. Why is government spending more and more? Why isn't government giving back some of my own money? Why are they taxing my personal property? Why is it why do I pay a penalty every year for the crime of owning a car? Why aren't my kids getting a good education? Why are they learning about critical race theory and gender ideology, and yet they can't learn to read and write? And why are we selling out our land to the communist Chinese? Missourians are frustrated, and not just Republicans and conservatives, libertarians, listeners to your show, Chris, but ordinary Missourians who don't pay that much attention to politics. They pay attention when their kids aren't learning to read and write, when their kids are learning poisonous ideology, and when they get a personal property tax bill in the mail.
We've been speaking with, and that is Dr. Bob Onder. He's a former Missouri State Senator, candidate for Missouri Lieutenant Governor. You can reach him at Twitter, or X as they call it now, at Bob Onder Mo. What's the other website or social media?
Yeah, bobondermo.com, and it's Bob Onder Mo on Facebook as well.
Excellent. Dr. Bob Onder, thank you so much, and best of luck to you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back, we're going to have State Senator Bill Eigel, who is running for Missouri Governor. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk, STL.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
There was an absolutely brutal attack on Andy Ngo. He is the conservative investigative journalist. Some of those people were sued, and there was a court ruling that let those people off the hook. Did you notice that that wasn't in the big national headlines? Somebody being attacked because they were observing criminal activity.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 to 9 on News Talk STL.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems. Listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BBB, so call 800-466-9625. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-466-9625.
Agree.
I think conservatives have it wrong.
Or disagree.
I couldn't agree with you more.
The conversation happens here.
I agree with you on Trump. I'm shaking my head. I'm one of your liberal Democratic listeners, and I don't get why any of this even matters.
Because your voice matters.
Everybody told him he couldn't do it, and then he did do it. That's what you got to do. You got to play hardball.
I want to hear what people are thinking and be able to talk about it.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
.47 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, a special edition. We're a little earlier than normal. We are broadcasting live at the Missouri State Capitol in Jefferson City. Tim Jones' old haunt, the speaker. And sitting at the desk with us is State Senator Bill Eigel, who is also running for Missouri governor. Welcome, Senator.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
You know, we talked about this with Senator Onder about the foreign ownership of land. That seems that's going to be an issue in this campaign. Governor Parson, along with your opponent, Mike Kehoe, had a press conference yesterday about the governor issuing executive order on buying Missouri farmland. Ever since I knew that you were going to be a guest today, I've been waiting to ask you your thoughts on yesterday's press conference.
Well, I got to tell you guys, first of all, I want to welcome Mike Parson and Mike Kehoe to this discussion. You know, for the past 10 years, they haven't said a word on this issue. And it's not surprising that they haven't said a word, because in 2013, it was Mike Parson and Mike Kehoe that actually voted to allow agricultural land to be sold to foreign countries in the first place, including China, up to 270,000 acres of ground. So I'm thrilled that they have finally decided to get involved in this conversation, although I know that the reason they're getting involved in this conversation is because what's different now between why they weren't talking before is now it's campaign season for Mike Kehoe, and he's got to make it seem like he's interested in this issue. Well, here's the thing. The EO that Mike Parson put out yesterday was so weak, did so little, which was nothing, does so little that in spite of that EO, Osama bin Laden, if he were alive today, could still buy farmland in the state of Missouri under the EO that Mike Parson has. So this whole idea that they're talking about, well, we're trying to address foreign American adversaries. No, they're not. They're doing a political movement. And if they were serious about this, they would get up and support the constitutional amendment that I have filed, which would do two things. One, it would make it illegal under our Constitution for any foreign country, not just China, but any foreign country, because I think Missourians ought to control our ground, or at least Americans. Sure. But it would make it illegal for any foreign country to buy our land. And secondly, for the hundreds of thousands of acres we've already lost, it would require those foreign owners to give the land back to American interests. So I have a pretty wide contrast on this policy with my opponent, who wants to my opponent in the lieutenant governor's office. And I just think that the number of acres that we should sell to foreign countries is zero. And I'm the only one running for governor saying it.
Mm-hmm. Bill, you know, when I first met you many, many moons ago, when I was in the house and you were just Bill, the businessman, you were, I felt like you were following me around to all of these events, because back then the big discussion was, how are we going to fund our roads and our bridges, right?
Yes.
And whether it's that issue, whether it's China farmland, whether it's taxation, there's so many things. And you and I were on the same page. We both agreed that we should not raise our gas tax, which the aforementioned leaders you just talked about were in favor of. But I was trying to find ways in which we could do that. And what I learned from you was there's so many things that Missouri needs to stop doing, and there's things that Missouri needs to start doing. And I was trying to get some of those things going. Unfortunately, we have term limits. If you and I and Bob Onder had served at the same time, the place may have blown up by now, but we would have had a heck of a lot of fun. But Bill, we need to think outside the box here in Missouri, don't we? We need to not raise taxes to fund our roads. We need to do something. We need to make sure that foreign governments do not own our farmland. We need to get rid of the personal property tax. Yeah. Missouri has kind of been stuck in the mud, haven't we, the last 10 years?
Well, first of all, Tim, I'm glad you referred back to those early days, so you can confirm to the audience that it was just a few years ago that I didn't have any gray hair.
Neither one of us did, and now look at us.
I was new to politics, no gray hair, and now just a couple of years later, I have a lot of gray hair, and I've gotten it all from being in politics this long. But I tell you what, it's been worth it, because we need to fight. We need to fight, and I mean, right now, you know, we as a culture, as an American society, we're in a war of ideas. The ideas of the left are that, one, truth doesn't matter, right? Kids can be boy or girl. You can be a boy or a girl. You can use whatever bathroom you want. Government should be able to control the decisions in your life, and you should pay us personal property tax and income tax so that we can push this leftist agenda. And unfortunately, because we've had weak leadership in the state of Missouri, we stagnated as a state. I mean, the number one metric that you ought to look at for how we're doing is whether or not populations are coming here. If people are moving to our area, which they're not in Missouri, what's going wrong? Well, where are they moving? They're going to places like Texas and Tennessee and Florida. Well, why aren't we imitating those policies? It's not because we don't have enough Republicans. It's because those Republicans are afraid to do the big red policy ideas that we are seeing implemented in those other states. And to your point about the gas tax, and of all the problems we have in this state, not a single one of them have anything to do with government not getting enough of your cash. Right. They don't have anything to do with they're not collecting enough from you on December 1st for personal property tax. They have nothing to do with they're not getting enough money from you out of your paycheck every day. Government in Missouri has never had as much money as it has right now. We have doubled the size of our state government. We've doubled spending, and anybody that's serious about reducing the tax burden would start any conversation with government's got too much of your cash. And I'm not hearing that message from our statewide leaders. I'm not hearing that from Mike Parson or Mike Kehoe or Jay Ashcroft. I'm the one saying we've got to get rid of this tax burden and we got to reduce it if we want to compete with the other big red states. Let's be a leader in this country.
Senator Schmidt famously said that because of the illegal immigration crisis, every state is a border state now. What is your plan? What to stop the flow of illegal immigration here in Missouri?
So the first thing we're going to do is we need to make it a state crime. To be in this state illegally. We know, and by the way, historically, the federal government is in charge of this, but that's become such a mess under the Biden administration, which has actually been a quick deterioration from how well we were doing under the Trump administration. It's deteriorated so quickly that states are going to have to get involved. We need to make it a crime to be in the state of Missouri illegally, and we need leaders in Jefferson City that are going to stand up and do the difficult thing by activating our law enforcement and our National Guard, if necessary, to go in and make sure that anybody's here illegally is not going to continue to be here legal. I'll tell you what, guys, when I'm the governor of this state, if I have to use some of the surpluses down in Jefferson City to buy a fleet of buses and get in them myself and drive these illegal immigrants back to the border of our country, I'm willing to do. I'm going to get the lieutenant governor. Bob Onder is going to be the lieutenant governor. He's going to come with me. We're going to get the Secretary of State and other statewide officials. In fact, I mentioned this at an event a few weeks ago, and for about a week, we kept getting phone calls in the campaign of folks that were willing to volunteer to be drivers of the bus with me. Well, guess what? It's time we're going to stand up and defend the rights of the citizens in the state. They're coming in through St. Louis and Kansas City right now. And why hasn't a governor of this state tripled the highway patrol presence along the highways leading into and out of Kansas City and St. Louis? Let's start arresting the folks that are a part of the illegal immigrant traffic, the fentanyl trade, the human trafficking trade. Well, why hasn't Mike Parson done all that already? Well, it's because Mike Parson is too close to the Democrats, just want to grow government, and he's afraid to be firm with them about protecting our rights.
And Bill, as much as the far left doesn't want to admit this, a lot of liberals and a lot of Democrats are admitting that this is now a crisis. Yeah. I heard Congressman Jim Jordan give an updated number on this. Chris and I think, had some outdated numbers because we were talking about this just the other day. And then I learned from Congressman Jim Jordan today, Senator Eigel, that the estimated amount of total illegal immigration in this country over the last 3 years is over 12 million people. The population of the state of Ohio. I mean, Bill, we don't have a country if we don't have a border and if we don't have a plan for 12 million new bodies in this nation.
Well, let's talk about how this actually affects Missouri in particular. Missouri is estimated to have about 51,000 illegal immigrants, and at the cost that's associated with that, it's estimated to be a total cost just for taxpayers in Missouri of about $2.3 billion in public services every 3 years. Why is $2.3 billion such an important number? Because the value of every personal property tax bill on every citizen in the state is only $1.7 billion. Imagine if we could take care of our illegal immigration problem that we just have in this state. It would free up more money in our public system to actually get rid of the personal property tax in the first place. So this is something that isn't going away. We are creating a class of resident in this country by allowing these folks to come here illegally that is suffering from criminal activity, that's bringing down our communities, and it is causing chaos. And chaos, gosh, is there anything we have more in St. Louis City or Kansas City that's destructive like the chaos the Democrats and leftists have allowed those areas to fall into?
Senator, we have about a minute and a half left. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Senator Onder. What is one of the main issues or concerns that you are hearing on the trail?
the frustration with Republicans that say one thing in campaign season and do something else once they get into office. So we're not doing the big red Republican ideas, and I would define those ideas. I've got 3 of them. We're going to protect foreign land and stop foreign countries from buying up all our farmland. We're going to get rid of the personal property tax in this state, and you're not going to have to pay rent for somebody pay rent to government for the crime of owning a car. And the last one is going to be election integrity reform. Let's get rid of these machines in our elections that, quite frankly, very few people trust. And if we can do that, we're going to start leading this country. And I think folks are going to buy into that message over the next 7 months.
The website where people can get more information about your campaign.
BillEagle.com. It's a great website. It's the best website I've ever seen. And, if you go to Bill, we've had 35,000 people sign up on our website to be part of our effort to become the next governor of the state of Missouri. And it's a message. And by the way, I'll say one last thing to folks. If you're out there and you're one of those people that are frustrated with Republicans, you're frustrated with everything that's going on, I just want you to know you're not alone. There's millions of people just like you in this state. And in 2024, we're going to kick a lot of apple carts over.
That is State Senator Bill Eigel, who is running for Missouri governor. Thank you, Senator. Best of luck to you. When we come back, we're going to have State Senator Travis Fitzwater listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show from Jeff City on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
Uniparty in control and now cancel culture going full tilt. Secretaries of State determining that the only way to preserve democracy is by not letting people vote for the candidate of their choice. We're probably looking at a rough 2024.
Mark McCloskey on fire.
This is a war against our freedom, and they will take absolutely every measure that they have in their power to destroy us.
Mark McCloskey on fire. Sundays at 5 on News Talk STL.
Brought to you in part by Modern Weapon Systems in Fenton.
Classic Kicks Country is streaming now. Hear all your new country favorites from the 90s.
I should have been a cowboy.
Streaming as it happened in the 90s. Classic Kicks.
Let's go, girls.
Download the Classic Kicks app from the App Store. Online at ClassicKicks.com.
I'll go back.
Or enable the Classic Kicks skill on Alexa.
I love this station.
90s New Country streaming now.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems. Listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BBB, so call 800-466-9625. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-466-9625.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019 94.1 and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. At least 95 people have been killed by 2 bomb explosions near the tomb of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani on the 4th anniversary of his assassination by the U.S.
The Red Crescent said it faced difficulties evacuating the wounded because the roads were packed with people. They turned out to mark the anniversary of Qasem Soleimani's killing outside Baghdad airport 4 years ago. He was responsible for overseeing the military operations of Iran's Revolutionary Guards across the Middle East. An initial report suggested that gas canisters had exploded on the road leading to the cemetery where he's buried. But state media is now calling this a grave terrorist attack. It comes at a time of heightened tension across the Middle East after the assassination of Hamas's deputy leader Saleh al-Aruri yesterday in Beirut.
BBC correspondent Caroline Hawley reporting. House Speaker Mike Johnson is leading about 60 fellow Republicans in Congress on a visit to the Mexican border. Their trip Wednesday to Eagle Pass, Texas, comes as they're demanding strong immigration reform policies in exchange for backing President Biden's emergency wartime funding request for Ukraine. Senate negotiators in Washington are plugging away in hopes of a bipartisan deal. Now that Harvard President Claudine Gay has resigned over accusations of plagiarism and her refusal during a congressional hearing to condemn students who called for the genocide of Jews, Harvard physics student Yoel Zimmerman says he's glad Gay has resigned.
I think she just did too many things wrong, especially with her testimony in Congress. I think that was just, the kind of final tipping point that should have led to her removal immediately.
Gay's resignation comes amid concerns over an increase in anti-Semitism across campuses nationwide. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 284 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-355-4107 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-355-4107. That's 800-355-4107. What do you have to lose? Call 800-355-4107. Again, 800-355.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Our dry weather pattern continues today, but a weak cold front sneaks by this morning, bringing some clouds and slightly cooler air. So a mix of clouds and sun with a high this afternoon around 43. Partly cloudy tonight, down to 26 early Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny, back up to about 41. Friday looking dry as well, but we're still watching for a little light rain, possibly mixed with some wet snowflakes this weekend. The snow will not stick to the pavement, so no significant travel impact expected. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Investment advisory services offered through OWLFI LLC, a SEC registered investment advisor. Insurance and education services offered through Serenity Wealth Management.
Are you or someone you know providing or managing care for a loved one today? Did you know there could be more cost-efficient solutions for funding long-term care, even those currently living in a skilled care facility today? Financial strategist and long-term care specialist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management can show you tax-efficient strategies available to help your family manage care concerns, whether planning for the future or managing care for a loved one today. Solutions exist to provide the financial peace of mind you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book, A CPA's Guide to Tax-Free Strategies for Long-Term Care. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Request your free copy of Chris's book by visiting SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
Thanks for being my voice in all this.
This is News Talk STL.
There are people out there that feel the way that I feel and say what I say.
Welcome home. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And good afternoon, and welcome back into an extended version, a special version of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here on the brand new year. The new year is still brand new. It's January the 3rd, 2024. Happy New Year to all you all, and thanks for joining us here, as you do every day at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. For those of you who are just tuning in, we actually had a special bonus hour So if you missed it because, you're used to your work schedule or your kid's schedule or whatever, and you turn us on at 4 o'clock, we've already been here for an hour at the Missouri State Capitol. So we welcome you to go back and check out our podcast, because the first hour was jam-packed with Senator Ben Brown, Dr. Bob Onder, candidate for lieutenant governor, and Senator Bill Eigel, candidate for governor. Chris, before we dive into a couple more states, we're going to have the entire Senate on by the end of the afternoon. Well, they do believe they're the more important chamber, and I say this as an old House Speaker. Although I do have two of my former House members here with us now. Chris, a couple of big headlines say, check this headline out, Chris. Alejandro Mayorkas calls out Texas for a failure of governance amid illegal immigrant crisis. Chris, do you think he was looking in the mirror when he may have said that?
I think so. And I also, too, Tim, I heard today through the political tip sheets that I read that Mayorkas is going to be impeached this year.
You and I called for that a year ago.
Exactly, more than a year ago. So I think maybe that is a opening salvo, because he's hearing the rumors that he's going to be possibly impeached next week.
And Chris, I know this is a family show and it's in the mid-afternoon, but Chris, how tight are the sphincters of the people who are a little worried about what's going to come out regarding the Jeffrey Epstein logs? Holy Toledo.
I know Bill Clinton and others should be worried. I tell you what, I'm really surprised that a judge signed off on this because of the people that are involved. People that are high profile, they get a little extra perks on things. And I thought the last thing they would want is Bill Clinton's name coming out on this manifesto, but we will see this week and who the other names are.
If we get any more breaking news throughout the show, we will break in and let you know what that is, and we'll have some more headlines for you throughout the program. But we are in the third floor rotunda, which is also commonly referred to as the Hall of Famous Missourians. We're surrounded by a lot of very famous and infamous people throughout Missouri history, including, Chris, looking over our shoulder is our hero, our mentor, and you know what? Let's call him our friend, the great Rush Limbaugh, right behind us here in the Hall of Famous Missourians.
The great Rush Limbaugh. I actually said a joke today in the office. I think I can say it on the air. We were talking about transgender surgeries, and Rush had a popular thing that he said for a female that wanted to become a male. It was called an addictomy. That was one of his that he said. I thought that was just hilarious.
Hate mail to Chris Arps at newstalkstl.com.
Yeah, send it to me.
Let's get to our next guest. You know what? Let's have them all comment on this. I'm sure they would love to handle that question. No, in all seriousness, we've got two more friends of the show with us this afternoon. State Senator Travis Fitzwater from the 10th Senatorial District. Folks, that's Callaway, Lincoln, Montgomery, Pike, and part of St. Charles County. Big, giant district, kind of mid-central, mid-east part of the state. And, of course, no stranger to News Talk STL Nation. They call him many different things, some that we can say on the radio.
Exactly.
Missouri State Senator Nick Schroer, the Thrower. Nicky Three Shows here as well. Gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, guys.
Great to have you. So, Senator Fitzwater, I was telling you before we went on that our 94.1 signal covers a big, giant part of your senatorial district. So that's what we definitely wanted to have you on to talk to many of your constituents this afternoon.
Keep growing the footprint. It's a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. So Senator Fitzwater, you're in I've lost track. Where are you in your senatorial career?
Second year. This is our second year. Nick and I both came in together last year. And so we're starting. Today was the first day of our second year in the Senate.
What's the plan for Fitzwater land as we head into the second year?
Well, Nick and I were talking about this today as people were giving speeches on the floor that you just got to get stuff done. Missourians are expecting a super majorities of Republicans to get things done, and we've got some big agenda items that we have got to work together as Republicans to get accomplished.
One thing I want to throw in a note about Senator Fitzwater. Your father is the mayor of Jefferson City, so just want to throw that in.
I thought you were going to say they had the same hairstyle.
Well, he's like me. My father had hair. Your father has hair. We don't have hair. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to that.
My grandfather on my mother's side he's a cue ball. That's where I get it from.
Well, that's what I learned afterwards. It's like male pattern baldness is on your mother's side. So whatever. Senator Schroer, I want to ask you, and I've asked the other politicians here before. There's been a lot of talk from the talking heads on Missouri politics that because this is an election year, probably not much is going to get done this year. What is your prediction?
Well, I think with the amount of people that are running statewide, especially the leaders in the House and the leaders in the Senate, I think that could actually change. When you've got individuals that are running in a Republican primary for statewide office and you really haven't accomplished much. I mean, in our time, Senator Fitzwater and I's time, there's been a lot of fighting. There's been a lot of personalities going back and forth. But what have we gotten done? You can't run on, hey, well, I didn't do a lot other than leading this into madness and leading this circus. So I think there is an appetite to get some big things done. Personal property tax cuts, some of the crime in the city of St. Louis. We just had a report come out today that the amount of arrests and prosecutions in St. Charles County has increased dramatically with the criminals. The main source of those criminals coming from St. Louis County and St. Louis City. So public safety is a huge priority for a lot of us. Hopefully, with all of these people running statewide, we can come together so we can check off the boxes that, yes, we actually got some of this red meat done.
Mm-hmm. Senator Fitzwater, one of the things that's in your district that a lot of Missourians may not realize is we have a nuclear power plant here in Callaway County. I've gotten to tour it. I'm sure you've been there a million times. First of all, talk about the safety record of that plant to maybe put everybody's fears at ease now that I've let people know we have a nuclear power plant in Missouri. And with the left trying to constantly kneecap not only Missouri, but the United States of America on our energy resources, isn't nuclear something that we should be looking to expand? I mean, in my time here, I remember we were talking about small modular reactors. Ameren runs that facility. What would they like to do to increase the nuclear footprint, not only in Missouri, but beyond the Midwest?
Well, first of all, it's insanity to not think that an all of the above approach to energy is the way to go for America. We could be energy independent for hundreds of years. We have everything we need right here in this country. We're so scared of nuclear, which is a big problem because we need nuclear. As we go to more renewables, as this is being thrust upon us by a federal government that's subsidizing it heavily because energy companies aren't going to institute these on their own unless they get huge subsidies. So the federal government is saying you have to go to renewables. We're shutting down coal plants, which are really our best way to provide cheap power in the state, going to more gas plants. Even those are being kneecapped. Nuclear is the one thing you can say, listen, this isn't terrible for the environment. The coal and the gas aren't anymore either. We've figured out how to make those really appropriate for our environment. But the nuclear is the solution, I think, for the future because there's really not a lot of waste. The waste fits on a football field and you just keep it in dry cask or
in Weldon Spring.
Or that's a whole different story.
That's maybe a different subject.
Yes.
Or you put it in the place that the federal government spent $20 billion on trying to figure out in Nevada that they've never let us use for storage
into a mountain
that the federal government has promised they'd always take care of if we got into the nuclear stuff. So you got to have nuclear energy for baseload power needs. You can't rely on renewables. It's insanity to think you can, at least not in the next couple decades. We are so far off from getting there, and nuclear it should be a huge piece of that.
I asked our earlier guest this question about the gambling. That seems it didn't get across the line yesterday, or last year, the year before, it didn't. Same question I asked them. What is holding this bill up? It seems like it's popular among the citizens. A lot of the groups, interests that want it. Why isn't this getting done? It seems like it's a no-brainer.
Well, I think it's personalities again. I think you have individuals that have ticked each other off and burned a lot of bridges for so long that when you do have a solution, look, the video lottery terminals go into every gas station in St. Charles County, St. Louis County, anywhere between Senator Fitzwater's district and mine, and you're going to see those little lottery terminals. They're here, but the state's not ensuring that the little old lady or the guy getting off after work is actually got a fair shake at winning. Same thing's happening with sports betting. You can buy a VPN that says you're in Kansas or you're in Illinois and you can sports bet. Again, the state is not overseeing any of this. So if they did, they could reap some of those benefits and offset some of the personal property tax, some of the real estate tax, and replace some of that stuff. Again, it goes back to personalities. Let's put our big boy pants on. I am the youngest Republican in the Missouri Senate right now, and a lot of the counterparts in the Republican and Democrat Party that are my grandparents' age, my parents' age, are acting worse than my children. Let's remember, yes. Let's remember exactly why. I wasn't going to say it.
Okay. I feel attacked. I don't know.
Well, there's a safe space somewhere here in the Capitol.
Is it the Democrat caucus?
It actually is. It's downstairs right now. But no, let's start prioritizing what we the people want. We the people want safer communities, better education opportunities. We want to get rid of some of these archaic tax schemes that I think are hurting our people and driving us to Tennessee, to Texas, to Florida. So let's start thinking outside of the box. Let's start prioritizing our people and our constitutional rights, and then we can be the shining city shining state within the United States.
Nick, I want to follow up on that because everything you just mentioned is being pursued and accomplished by some of the most popular Republican governors in the country, some of whom have run or are running or who may run for president at some point in the future. And I want to direct your attention specifically to the lady leaders to our north and to our south, Governor Kim Reynolds in Iowa and Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas. They are doing things like cutting their state's income tax, passing universal school vouchers, reducing regulations, their right to work states. It seems that the conservative and conservative-leaning folks in this state have those priorities, but I'm sorry to say some of our upper-level leadership does not. What's the issue here?
Maybe it's that water from Weldon Spring getting in people's minds. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, when you look at the term limits that we have here, legislators come and go, but the lobby corps stays here. The bureaucrats stay here. And that's where I think the learning curve to educate these new legislators on how to get your priorities done. They're cozying up with some of the lobbyists that maybe it's job security because they want to deal with the same issue again next year. I don't know. That's what my call was today on the floor is, look, let's start prioritizing what we the people want. Looking at Arkansas, the bill that I filed on education choice is going that route, taking a lot of the things that they've done to prioritize our kids and our kids' future instead of continuing to fund the status quo in the government schools. A guy by the name of Doug Ritchie right here, who's standing right next to me. He's got a great beard for the first time in a long time. He's got a great bill that I've been filing, allowing for tax offsets on what people are paying in tuition. Again, think boldly. Maybe it's because you have women leadership actually getting the House back in order. I don't know what it is, but I always go back to term limits and how bad they've been implemented. I like the idea of term limits, but the way they've been implemented in the state of Missouri has actually put the power and all of the knowledge in the special interest and lobbyist hands.
Senator Fitzwater, abortion, of course, has been a big hot button issue nationally. How big do you expect abortion to be here in Missouri this session?
I think it's been a hot topic every year. Nick and I have been in the legislature, and the representative that's near us, and since the speaker was the speaker back in the day when he was running the House.
Once the speaker.
Once the speaker. I'm trying to not say it in an offensive way. It's like, how do I say it?
I've been called worse. Don't worry. Don't worry about it.
I'm not. Yeah. He's the Speaker of the House, and Catherine Hanaway. From the point she helped turn the corner for Republicans in the state of Missouri, it's been a priority to ensure that at that point, tens of thousands of babies were murdered on a yearly basis, and we've whittled that down to next to nothing on the surgical level because Planned Parenthood is basically left on the they can't do much at this point. Now it's how do we prevent it even further? How do we ensure that Planned Parenthood can't get a foothold here? And so it's always a big issue. It's always a big discussion in our legislature. And when we passed especially with Senator Shore, who was a big part of that a couple of years ago, we passed the abortion bill that basically banned it almost completely in the state of Missouri, and we almost have basically zeroed out elective abortions in the state of Missouri.
We became the first state after the Dobbs decision gave it back to the states because of the trigger law that we put in there. Representative Adam Schnelting added that on to my Missouri Stands for the Unborn Act. When Dobbs overturned Roe v. Wade, Attorney General at the time, Eric Schmidt, now Senator Eric Schmidt, signed that proclamation, that resolution that said, all right, we're going to ban it and then start from scratch. You know, the thing that scares me is that even with all those prohibitions, we still have, I think it was Project Veritas or the spinoff. The videos came out in the Planned Parenthood in Kansas City area, in Missouri, where they were going undercover saying, look, they've got a 13-year-old. She's pregnant. They don't want mom and dad to know. How can we get an abortion? They said, send them over here. We'll tell you exactly where she can get an abortion without mom and dad knowing. That type of stuff is what human trafficking results in. How can we get rid of this baby? That we had that talk on the floor in the House and the Senate back in 2019. We're going to have it again this year.
And to show you just how effective your bill is, we had someone on last week from a Missouri pro-life group telling us that there are 3 abortion clinics in the town where you went to law school, Carbondale.
Yeah, Carbondale.
Why does Carbondale need 3 abortion clinics? They just opened one up.
I don't think any state, any city needs an abortion clinic because if you look at the Bill of Rights that we read on the floor today, at the start of every session, they read the Bill of Rights in the Senate. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No one should be deprived life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without due process. Well, the Democrats in the 1980s in the state of Missouri said life begins at conception. Why is that life less valued than the life of somebody who is born? Democrats today can't answer that question, even though they were the ones that injected that into our law back in the 80s.
Senator Fitzwater, you're all going to get down to business pretty quickly this year because this is what's called the kind of the interim year and heading into the election year. So no pomp and circumstance, no legislative balls. I know bills are already being referred. What would you like to see the Senate tackle first? What 3 or 4 critical items do you think the Senate should make its first moves on to address this year?
I think ESAs. We got to give parents the opportunity to educate their kids the way they see fit. And we homeschool our daughters. It's been a huge blessing to us. We have the ability to do that, thankfully, because we live, Missouri is a great state to live and raise a family because the cost of living is not terrible, especially in mid-Missouri in a rural area. We need to give that opportunity to more parents. They need to have the resources they need to educate their kids. I think you're going to have a big pro-life discussion this year. What do we do about Planned Parenthood in the state of Missouri? I think we've talked about that on the floor today, in the back, not during debate. I think that's going to be a big deal.
I can talk about it tomorrow.
Well, maybe you will. The personal property taxes, we got to reform that. It's what point do you own your property?
Right.
At what point?
Amen.
And I think this is where it's killing our retirees on fixed incomes because inflation's going up and their counties are coming in very aggressively raising taxes. I have a buddy who's a Democrat in Kansas City, has a really thriving business, young guy grinding it out. And Jackson County came in and like 10x'd his property taxes on his building. He doesn't know if he can make it. And this is a guy that's for the last 8 years has done everything he can to build his dream. It's got a great story, great, phenomenal. And so we've got to do something in this space where we're giving Missourians relief. Like it's gone too far. We got to do something in that space. And there are so many issues, foster care issues that are a passion for my wife and I. We have a system that hurts kids on a regular basis. We have more foster care kids per capita than almost any state in the nation. That's got to get fixed because those kids get into the system and they never leave the system. And that's a problem for us in a myriad of ways. So we got a lot of work to do. And as Senator Shore said, we've got to come together as Republicans and show Missourians that we deserve the supermajority.
Politics can be a tough business sometimes. You have the spotlight on you. You guys enjoying yourself? Still like it?
It's good. I mean, we come in where, we want to get things accomplished. So I think there's a part where it's like, we love being in the Senate because you have so many levers to pull. But at the same token, we want to see these things done. We want to go back to our districts and say, we accomplished the things we said we were going to accomplish when we came here. And I think that's the hardest part when you have personalities get in the way. It's not because there's beefs with the policy. It's personality conflicts, and that's not necessary. We got to show Missourians that we can get past the personality conflicts and get conservative legislation passed.
All right. Hey, as we let you guys go, how can folks find you, whether they're constituents or, in Nick's case, want to send him hate mail? How can they find you guys on social media, etc.?
Just at Travis Fitzwater. We'll get you about anywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Fantastic. For me, you can go at Nick B. Schroer on X. If you're on X, sounds like I'm saying if you're on drugs. Previously Twitter, but just go to nickschroer.com. It'll link you up to everything. Or tune in Sunday, 8 to 10 p.m., Stand and Fight.
I was going to say, don't you have a show on Sunday?
On some station? Like this one right here.
Allegedly.
Nick Schroer is on Sunday night, Stand and Fight, part of SR1 Sundays.
A dog or a cat.
Look that clip up. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Senators, thank you so much. You guys are a positive ray of sunshine. You've got such happy warrior outlooks. We wish you all the best with your very important policy priorities you have.
Thanks, God bless y'all.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, God bless y'all too.
And they're young guys. That's what gives you a breath of kind of.
Kind
of give us energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
742.
When we come back, there's a fella standing right by he's stalking us, I think. We're going to talk to the House next. We've got Missouri State Representative. He's actually thinking about going to the upper chamber. I'm going to try to cure him of that. The water's weird over there. We're going to talk to State Representative Doug Ritchie, candidate for State Senate, when we come back about that universal voucher bill and more here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Our dry weather pattern continues today, but a weak cold front sneaks by this morning, bringing some clouds and slightly cooler air. So a mix of clouds and sun with a high this afternoon around 43. Partly cloudy tonight, down to 26 early Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny, back up to about 41. Friday looking dry as well, but we're still watching for a little light rain, possibly mixed with some wet snowflakes this weekend. The snow will not stick to the pavement, so no significant travel impact expected. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
News, the news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
It seems as if the Democrats no longer view the government's job as protecting honest citizens from criminals.
101.9 and 94.1.
But rather protecting criminals from honest citizens.
News Talk STL.
Love talking about my bank, Royal Banks of Missouri. They've been around since 1964. That's 2 years longer than I've been on this earth. So you know they're not going anywhere. You can look them up. Royal Banks of Missouri have some of the highest ratings for financial stability and strength. They are a community bank, so they're not some out-of-town big bank that you're just a number and they don't have personal relationships with you. They do at Royal Banks of Missouri. Royal Banks of Missouri has 17 locations. They have locations in St. Charles, Missouri, Hannibal, Missouri, across the river in Jerseyville, and in Granite City. Royal Banks of Missouri also has 200 free ATMs across the Midwest, so you can get your money when you need it. Whether you need wealth management, personal or business checking, mortgages, Royal Banks of Missouri has you covered. Visit my friends Royal Bank online at royalbanksmo.com, royalbanksmo.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank that is in your community.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo. The new year is upon us, and the cleaning pros at Zero Res are starting things off with a bang with what I think is their best offer ever. Book a cleaning in January and mention the Colombo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $119, plus you can take $50 off an air duct cleaning. We trust Zero Res with our home, and after you take advantage of this amazing special, you will too. Just remember to mention the Colombo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
I'm Susie Moore, and this is More to the Point. There's been talk for years about the higher education bubble, the notion that excessive investment in higher education can result and has resulted in inflated tuition costs, an increased supply of college graduates for a decreased supply of employment opportunities, and an unsustainable increase in student loan debt. Conventional wisdom says something's got to give, and probably sooner rather than later. Joe Biden's idea of addressing the issue appears to be the bass-ackwards approach of forgiving student loan debt. Never mind the second and third-order effects that will have on lending institutions and U.S. taxpayers, many of whom either didn't incur college debt themselves or have already paid theirs back. One way or another, that bubble is bound to burst at some point, right? In addition to the direct fallout from the horrific attack by Hamas on Israel October 7th, we've seen indirect impacts in the numerous protests around the world and here in the U.S., particularly on college campuses. The sharp and twisted rise of anti-Semitism, especially in the Ivy League, has been stunning to witness, as has the exposure of university presidents for their lack of moral clarity and leadership. With Harvard's Claudine Gay stepping down on Tuesday, it made me think, maybe the higher education bubble is finally bursting, but just not in the way we envisioned it would.
Susie Moore is Deputy Managing Editor for RedState.com. For more to the point and everything Susie Moore, log on to RedState.com. Follow Susie on Twitter at SmoozyQ and keep listening to 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Yeah. You know what?
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
No diggity, no doubt. Play on, play it.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It is 4:30, and once again, we are still broadcasting from the Missouri State Capitol, and we have two more state representatives to join us. They are Representative Doug Ritchie and State Representative Chad Perkins. How are you, gentlemen?
What a great place to do a radio show right here in the dome of the Capitol.
Now, that voice you hear, that's Representative Chad Perkins. He is a state legislator, but you also indulge in another hobby. What is it?
This is my 30th year in doing country radio. So it's kind of odd, though, doing this. Like I said to Doug today, I said, I'm used to doing like a 6 to 9 morning show, taking a nap for a couple hours. I'm like, I got to be up all day long now.
Yes. All right, can you give us a little, how you'd go in and out for a song?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no problem. So, like, I do country radio, right? So, like, coming up, you got a date with Straight coming up right after the break. Stick around. We've got some things coming up in the next half hour. Blah 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 blah. Whatever it is. Right?
That's fantastic.
It's 4:30 and 30-40. I don't know.
I love that voice. And Representative Doug Ritchie, how are you, sir?
I am doing well. It's
tell
great
us,
to be here.
Tell us where your district's located.
So Eastern Clay County. That's 39th district. In my third term. So this is beginning my 6th session. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of friendships made, a lot of frustration as well. But it's we're starting into another session here, and looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, you guys are kind of the east and west of the state, aren't you?
Absolutely.
You drive up and down I-70, and you can hit both of your districts within a few hours or so. Yeah, or if you had a plane, it'd be a little faster. Representative Ritchie, we talked about you in the earlier segment because we were talking about education reform and parental choice. You have filed an aggressive bill, but one that is definitely taking the nation by storm. A lot of other states are moving forward on this piece of legislation. Universal school choice, right?
Yes.
Tell us what the heck's that all about. And boy, I'll tell you what, you're a guy who likes to get it on, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So House Bill 1911, that is a great bill number because I'm a fan
1911.
of 1911.
I've got 1776.
That's right. Yes. So House Bill 1911 basically creates the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act, which basically allows for families who choose to have their children educated outside of the public school districts to be able to keep track of the expenses for the education of their children, whether it's for tutors, curriculum, tuition, what have you. And then they can get a credit back from the state in terms of the dollars spent. So this is the closest thing you can come up with where money follows the student with as little government intrusion possible. I don't have DESE referenced in this bill. It is basically up to the state adequacy target, which right now is a little over $7,000 a year per student. And it works for both those homeschool families that desire to take part. Certainly there's no mandatory element there. They don't have to, but if they would like to, they can. And then those who choose to have their students enrolled in a private school. At the end of the day, the state of Missouri has a vested interest to make sure that we have a well-educated citizenry. And it shouldn't matter to us ultimately where that happens. We need to trust that parents know their students or their children, and the parents are going to have the best interest for their children. And we need to trust parents.
One of the big issues this session and during this political season is foreign ownership of land.
Yes.
The governor and the lieutenant governor had a press conference yesterday. We had Senator Bill Eigel on, and he was very passionate about his views on the governor's executive order. What are yours?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think it was a little weak, right? I filed a bill last year that banned all foreign ownership of land in this country, and of course it got watered down to limiting it to 5 countries, right? And those 5 countries, of course, China, Venezuela, Iran, North Korea, and the enemy.
Right.
But still, I don't think that foreign ownership of land in this country should be the right of really just anyone other than American citizens. And so I think the governor's order was a little weak. It was a little late and a little weak.
Yeah, I agree. When you say 10 miles outside of a military installation in the state of Missouri, that in today's world, it's like saying there's really no limitation.
Yeah, so 11's okay?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
And quite frankly, I mean, all of this time has passed. We've been having this discussion for so long, and this is what they come up with. Now, I believe that we need to lean into this and get something done. And what has been put in place by this executive order, it's not really even a nod toward it personally. This is my opinion. It's not even a nod toward it. It's just like, we're they did something that was very, very minimal. And quite frankly, it's not, how do you defend that? 10 miles.
That number seems real arbitrary.
Yes.
And you don't have, that leaves so much of Missouri's farmland open, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we can talk about, we get oil from Saudi Arabia, wherever. That's a whole nother story. We got plenty of oil right here ourselves. But the thing we do have that the rest of the world doesn't, we feed the world. Missouri's farmland is a national security issue. And allowing the Chinese to come in and buy it, maybe take it out of production, starve us out, it's a terrible idea. We just need to ban everyone from being able to buy.
Mm-hmm. Speaking to two Missouri state representatives, we've got Chad Perkins and Doug Ritchie with us this afternoon on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Representative Perkins, I see that you're on a couple of very related committees, Corrections in Public Institutions and Crime Prevention and Public Safety. Right. When I was here in the Missouri House, it was not the Stone Age, it was about 8 or 9 years ago, we learned a very sobering statistic that most of our corrections facilities in our state are populated from people from about 4 to 5 zip codes in the entire state. Some said you could actually boil it down to maybe 3. We've got to end that circle of failure in our state, right? Education's related to it, but the crime issue as well spills out well beyond the urban areas. And I know a lot of people in this building, I went through it as well, they like to divide things along geographic lines and rural and urban. But if our urban and suburban areas continue to fail, the state's going to fail as a whole, isn't it?
I had dinner the other day with the sheriff there in Lincoln County. Of course, that's it's a little bit suburban, a little bit rural, right? But he is seeing urban crime spill over into his county,
up in Lincoln County.
Up in Lincoln County.
Man.
It's just spilling over in droves, right? So it is certainly an issue that even though much of it you think of as urban, it's spilling over a lot. And I think, to be frank with you, and we can talk about education and all the different other factors, but a breakdown of the family.
Yes.
And I tell you, there is a cultural war taking place in this country for the heart and soul of our kids. And folks like Doug Ritchie are here to put a stop to that, right? Say, no. There's nothing wrong with some of the ways we've done things forever. There's no reason to reinvent these.
Right. Gentlemen, I just want to play devil's advocate for a minute when it comes to the foreign ownership of farmland. What if
that's okay,
Canadian?
Chris. That's okay, Chris. You can be wrong.
What if a Canadian company or a British company, which are friends of the United States, what if they wanted to buy farmland? I don't think people would consider them a national security risk per se. What would you say to those folks?
I understand. We have friends and allies all across the globe, and those are necessary. And you know what? Maybe we develop a strategy where they lease this property. But the ownership of America is the right of Americans, and that's my belief on it.
Yeah, and I think that, over the last several cycles where we've been debating this issue, there has been a focused list, if you will, of countries that would be not capable of purchasing and owning of ag land in Missouri.
Sure.
It wasn't every nation, but it was the nations that, quite frankly, when you think of those nations that are an enemy of humanity.
You mean the axis of evil?
Yeah, right. They would not be able to do that. And, I think that that's where a lot of people are. Now, I understand and appreciate what my colleague here is saying as well, and that is that we need to take ownership of land seriously, right? I mean, if we as Americans want to truly own the future of our country, we have to. We live in a society where it is very global.
Yes.
And it doesn't take much for a foreign entity that's today a friend. They could become a foe quite very easily, right? So we just have to think about those things. They're complex, but up to this point, though, it's generally been a short list of those nations that most Missourians would say are evil.
Okay. Right. I saw a proposal. Was it in the governor's order yesterday that allowed for, and I'm asking the question, that allowed for research facilities to be owned in Missouri. Did you all see that?
I did. I have to admit, I did not read the article.
Have you heard that, Doug?
So that was in the bill last year. That was slipped in.
That's right. So it's not the governor. Okay. In the Senate bill that came out last year, they allowed for research facilities to be owned by the Chinese on farm ground in Missouri. You could literally build the Wuhan Wuhan facility in Missouri under the proposal that came out of the Senate last year.
Nuts.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, not a good idea to franchise Wuhan. I'm sorry. After everything went through. Representative Ritchie, Representative Perkins referenced the fact that that you have been leading the charge on trying to address the cultural problem in our society. And you gentlemen, you weren't here earlier, but one of the state senators referenced the cultural issues at the core here, and you waged a battle last year through the budgetary process to try to say that we're not going to have taxpayer dollars of Missourians spent on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which a lot of times is simply code for communist Marxist ideology. I'm sorry, that's what it's proven to be.
Yes.
For whatever reason, the powers that be in this building, who are all Republicans, decided to strip that out. I mean, have you been able to talk any sense to them, into them during the interim?
Sure. So what I am doing, we are in the process of finalizing the language. The Senate last year told me that if that were to be filed as a standalone statutory bill, they would support it. So I'm holding them to that this session.
Promises made, promises kept, right?
Right. So I'm filing a bill that would prohibit taxpayer resources from being used to promote neo-Marxist, divisive ideology. This is the problem. I'm a pastor outside of this work, right?
Okay.
And one of the things that I know to be true, I know it to the core of my being. When you take something that is true and right and good, the enemy takes what is true and modifies it ever so slightly and fills it with something that's poisoned at the root.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we're seeing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't know of anyone who would say I'm against diversity.
Right.
I don't know of anyone that would say I'm against treating people with equity or including people, right, in any particular process. That's not what we're fighting against, though. The problem is the left has taken something strategically smart for them. They've taken something that we all agree on in terms of the terms, and they have pumped it full of this neo-Marxist approach to life, and they are eviscerating the family and the very things that we as Americans value, no matter what our backgrounds are.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is something we've got to fight against, and it affects our schools, it's affecting our state bureaucracy, and quite frankly, no taxpayer dollar should ever be used to promote an ideology that violates the core principles of who we are as a people, that has made us the freest, most prosperous nation in the world.
Mr. Speaker, what the left wants is an equitable opportunity. They want equitable outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and that's the problem. Right? Where Doug and I agree on the fundamental basis. They said, hey, we want to have X amount of minorities, X amount of this, X amount of that in our medical programs at different schools. I don't care what my doctor looks like, Tim, Chris. I don't care. I just want them to be the best at what they do.
Absolutely.
I couldn't care less what color they are, what color their hair is, what their gender is. Don't care. I just want them to be the best. So this idea that we have to have a certain amount of minorities in a medical program is, I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
you want the best and the brightest.
Yes,
Period.
exactly.
The end.
We've been speaking with State Representatives Chad Perkins and Representative Doug Ritchie. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Appreciate it. Do you guys have a website or something you guys want to give out?
Social media
before we let you go?
Sure. So Doug Ritchie Mo. So at Doug Ritchie Mo, last name is spelled Richey, and that's going to be consistent across the platforms.
And Golden Pipes with
Chad. You can shoot me an email, whatever you want. Chad for Missouri at gmail.
We'll get there.
.com.
Yes.
Yeah,
gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great conversation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
When we come back, we will be speaking with Jay Ashcroft, Missouri's 40th Secretary of State and candidate for governor. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Play on, play it. Yo, Trey, drop the verse.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Our dry weather pattern continues today, but a weak cold front sneaks by this morning, bringing some clouds and slightly cooler air. So a mix of clouds and sun with a high this afternoon around 43. Partly cloudy tonight, down to 26 early Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny, back up to about 41. Friday, looking dry as well, but we're still watching for a little light rain, possibly mixed with some wet snowflakes this weekend. The snow will not stick to the pavement, so no significant travel impact expected. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers. news.
This is what's happening.
Our economy is in a free fall.
The president can go on TV and say he's asked a serious question with serious allegations to back it up. He can scream, "Get off my lawn," all day long.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Congratulations to everyone at Connor Roofing. We chose the Connor Roofing team for our National Best of the Best award for customer satisfaction without telling anyone at Connor Roofing, based on over 30 years of fantastic customer reviews. Rob and Kathy Connor and their team deliver very high quality roofing, siding, gutters, storm damage restoration at a fair price with integrity. Connor Roofing has had an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for years. Count on Connor. For an estimate, please visit connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo for my friends at A+ Plumbing and Drain, and they truly are our friends because they have done it all at our house over the years, from putting in a new faucet to installing a whole new bathroom from scratch. The team at A+ has always done great work for a great price. A+ Plumbing and Drain is a local, family-owned business that can take care of all your plumbing needs and specializes in new construction and home renovation. Call A+ for your next project at 636-288-7126 or through Facebook at A+ Plumbing and Drain.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Fake news is one thing, but one major city in America now has news anchors who are all digital, reading off AI-generated news copy. I'll explain what it means on Thursday.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It is 4:46. We are at the state capitol, and joining us at the table is an old friend and a voice that you hear often here on News Talk STL, Missouri Attorney General, Missouri Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft.
I'm not
as old as the John Ashcroft who was Missouri Attorney General.
Secretary of State and Governor candidate Jay Ashcroft. Welcome, sir.
Glad to be here.
Boy, I got mixed up there. So, we've been asking everyone about yesterday's press conference with the governor and Lieutenant Governor about his executive order on farmland ownership, foreign ownership of farmland. That seems to be a huge issue early in the campaign. Love to get your thoughts on it, sir.
Well, I think it's pretty unfortunate that it took an executive order from the governor to get the lieutenant governor to realize that we had a problem and that something needed to be done. I also think it's unfortunate that the governor didn't actually do anything with that executive order. He doesn't have the statutory authority to do what he said he did. If he really wanted to do that, he would have worked with us last year. I had two pieces of legislation that would get that done. I worked with Senator Bean in the Senate. I worked with Representative Hafner in the House. HB 903 was specifically targeted toward our adversaries. SB 55 was a complete ban. If it was really something he was concerned about, why didn't he actually act when it would have made a difference? That was talk. And unfortunately, that's what we've had in Jefferson City for so many years is talk, but we have not had conservative policy and real action.
Yeah, Mr. Secretary, it was arguably a different world back in 2013 when the original bill was passed, but both the governor and the lieutenant governor have been in this building ever since then in various different roles in the Senate, in different executive level offices. I mean, there's no justification for allowing one of the people that your party, my party, the Republican Party calls the axis of evil to own farmland in the state of Missouri, right?
What happened in the last 9 months to make it suddenly an emergency? Because we had the bill to get it done last session.
Right.
It passed the House. The Senate created a loophole to allow any government to buy any land they wanted, but the House passed a good bill. If it was important, they should have helped then. If they're only helping now, it kind of makes you wonder why.
Yeah, maybe because it's, I'll say it, a campaign year. Yes, a campaign, an election year.
Secretary, excuse me. The Maine Secretary of State ruled recently that Donald Trump is not allowed on Maine's ballot. Colorado Supreme Court has ruled that he is not allowed on the ballot. Will Donald Trump be on Missouri's ballot? And your thoughts on that?
If the people of this state choose Donald Trump as their nominee, the Republicans do in the caucus, then he will be on the general election ballot. The people of Missouri will decide. What happened in Colorado was a kangaroo court. What happened in Maine was a banana republic. The United States Supreme Court, I believe, will get involved, will smack that down, And I hope to do it quickly, because if they don't, you will see secretaries of state, and I know several of them, one very well, that are going to make sure that if that's the new rules we play by, that they're going to be played by both Republicans and Democrats.
Does the Supreme Court decision need to be a 9-0 decision?
You know, with some of the people that have been put on the court, I don't know that you can ever get a 9-0 decision. I mean, when you pick people based on their race and their gender, although I didn't think that Democrats understood the understanding of gender, I don't know that you get that. But what we need to have is a decision that affirms that that was unlawful and inappropriate.
Mr. Secretary, the Democrats and the hard left's argument seems to be that for election 2024, the way that they're going to, quote, save democracy is literally by rigging elections. I mean, how dangerous is it to have Trump derangement syndrome be a justification for something that is completely and utterly constitutional? This is very dangerous ground, right? Just because they don't like Donald Trump.
The only other time when this happened, it was to protect slavery.
Right.
That should say everything we need. And we shouldn't say it was to keep Republicans off the ballot. It was to stop people of color from being free. It was to protect slavery, and we need to make those people own it, because it was wrong then and it's still wrong now.
Talking to Secretary Jay Ashcroft, Missouri's Secretary of State, of course. Mr. Secretary, this is the opening session, of course. What bills are you following closely that you'd like to see pass this session?
You know, there are a ton of bills that we're following. I've talked to a lot of legislators about things we could do on elections, you know, mandating citizenship to register, to vote, having voter registrations expire and setting that up in concert with driver's license so we clean our voter rolls, changing our residency rules so it's clear where people should be registered. Simple things like just making people register in their full legal name so it's easier to clean our voter rolls and check for duplicates. There's all sorts of things. I'd also love to see us improve our audit system so that we're doing a quick machine count to kind of know what the parameters are, but then having a more rigorous hand count audit so we have the protections of both of them. But if you saw the way the Senate opened today, I'm not optimistic we get anything done.
Yeah, it's hope springs eternal, I guess, for the next few minutes or so. But Mr. Secretary, one of the other issues I know you've championed and spoken about quite passionately is the opportunity for the parents of the children of the state of Missouri to control their kids' education and to allow them to choose whether they should be in a public school, a private school, a charter school, a home school, a virtual school, whatever it might be. Missouri has really lagged behind on that despite having a Republican supermajority. We really need some leadership on that. Will that be one of the planks of your run for governor?
That is my number one priority, to put mama bears in charge. You know, people talk about local control all the time. The best local control for education is putting mom in charge and having that mom deal directly with the teacher to decide if that teacher is right for her child. That empowers teachers, it empowers parents, and it gives us the results we need. And, you know, just jumping back to legislation, legislation I want to see pass, you know, legislation I'd like to see not pass. How about we don't give a $50 million bailout to the transportation department after they got a gas tax we didn't need, and the courts just held that the legislature has no oversight over that? How about we don't give another $500 million to DESE that already gets $9.7 billion when fewer than 25% of our eighth graders are proficient in math and reading? I didn't say calculus and physics. I said math and reading.
Mr. Secretary, you are, of course, running for governor. I've been seeing a lot of pictures of you on social media in front of county limit signs. In Iowa, they have a thing called the full Grassley when you visit all 100 and so counties in Iowa. Are you doing the full Ashcroft in Missouri?
Yeah, I've done that every year since when I was running. Although I have to say I'm starting badly. I'm back at zero today. So, yes, I think it's important for statewide officials to get out and let the people talk to the official instead of the other way around. Government's not supposed to impose its values on the people. The people are supposed to impose their values on their government.
What are you hearing from the people in Missouri as you travel the state?
They're fed up. They're pissed. They don't believe it matters who they vote for because everybody lies and then does whatever they want. They see the budget exploding. I'm hearing that the governor is going to ask for across the board pay raises for state employees when working families are trying to figure out how they're going to make their paycheck stretch. They're not putting kids in soccer or baseball because they can't afford it. They're worried about gas in their car. We've got to have a mindset here that the people are who we serve, not power and position, and they are pissed.
Excellent. Secretary Ashcroft, is there a website that folks can go to get more information about your campaign, or with the Secretary of State's
Well,
office
for the
as well?
Secretary of State's office, it's sos.mo.gov. And as soon as the parties respond to us, we'll have information on the caucuses coming up. But for my own, it's Ashcroft for Missouri, or at @JAshcroftMo on Twitter.
That is one thing. Talk about this caucus system, how it's not going to be a regular thing that Missourians
The
voted
Senate
used to.
amended the elections bill in 2022 to remove the presidential preference primary and move Missouri to a caucus state, which means that the nomination process for presidential candidates is completely controlled by the parties. So the Republican Party looks like they're going to do a caucus. Looks like the Democrat Party is going to mail out ballots to Democrats. Then the Libertarian Party is going to have their own convention, it looks like, later on. Sadly, we've been reaching out to the parties for weeks now to get their final rules and instructions so we can put that information out. They have not disclosed it to us. As soon as my office has it, we will get that out to the people of this state so they can be involved, because we need more people involved, not fewer.
How concerned are you? I mean, are we prepared for this?
There's a reason that we weekly reach out to the parties for more information.
Where should people go to learn about the fact they're not going to vote in March at a ballot box? They're going to have to go to a caucus system like they do in Iowa. Iowa's an expert at it. That's all they've ever done. But we've had caucuses and we haven't had caucuses. Where would you recommend people go for information?
Right now, the best place to go is your local central committee, be it Republican, Democrat, or Libertarian. As soon as they give us the information, we will post it on our website. We will push it out on social media. Sorry.
Stand by. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And one more time, the website's
sos.mo.gov, Ashcroft for Missouri.
Secretary Ashcroft, thanks so much for
Thank
joining us.
you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Best of luck to you on the campaign trail, sir. And at 5:07, we will speak with Missouri's Attorney General Andrew Bailey and Representative Adam Schwadron. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote and accelerate the development of quality Christ-centered K-12 education.
Hi, this is Daryl Jones, president of the Herzog Foundation. Our primary goal is to advance Christian education so that families and culture flourish. The legacy of Stan's business career centers around making national transit ecosystems accessible and sustainable. Likewise, the legacy of Stan's philanthropy centers around making the ecosystems of Christian education more accessible and sustainable for families across the nation. Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more about our programs, including trainings, scholarships, conferences, news, and our podcast, Making the Leap.
Visit HerzogFoundation.com to learn more and sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. HerzogFoundation.com.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. House Republicans are scheduled to begin impeachment proceedings against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
The House Homeland Security Committee, led by Republican Mark Green of Tennessee, will hold its first impeachment hearing into Secretary Mayorkas next week on January 10. According to the House panel, the hearing is aimed at evaluating the impact of the Secretary's, quote, failed leadership in his refusal to enforce the laws passed by Congress. If impeached, Mayorkas will be the first cabinet secretary to be ousted since 1876. The U.S. southern border has seen an unprecedented number of crossings in recent months. Edwin Mora, Washington.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson led a group of Republicans to the southern border today as part of his effort to galvanize support for border security as a bargaining chip in negotiations with the Biden administration over funding for Israel and Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine have exchanged hundreds of prisoners of war under a deal sponsored by the United Arab Emirates. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
Ukrainian authorities say 230 Ukrainian prisoners of war have returned home, while Russia's defense ministry says 248 Russian servicemen have been freed from Ukrainian captivity. The ministry adds the deal was made possible thanks to mediation efforts by the United Arab Emirates. There's been no immediate acknowledgement from the UAE, though, which has maintained close business ties to Moscow throughout Russia's war on Ukraine. The massive prisoner exchange follows other such deals earlier in the war, which is nearing the 2-year mark. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
A down day on Wall Street as the Dow dropped 284 points, the Nasdaq lower by 173, the S&P declined 38. More on these stories at townhall.com.
In Dinesh D'Souza's new blockbuster movie, Police State exposes the government's plot to control MAGA conservatives.
These are anti-government.
We have freedom of religion and freedom of speech.
Violent extremists, and they must be dealt with.
MAGA Republicans threaten the very foundation of our republic.
Mass surveillance, censorship, and armed attacks. There's nowhere to hide.
FBI, we have an arrest warrant.
15 marked units on my property.
Military-styled soldiers pointing an automatic rifle at my head.
Are we becoming a police state?
It may be the Russia other people grew up in, but not my America.
Directed by Dinesh D'Souza, Debbie D'Souza, and Bruce Shuley, Police State sounds the alarm.
What we need is a person, and then we go find out what crime you did. How did we give the state this kind of power?
Police State, they have their lists. Are you next?
If they're coming for me, they're coming for you.
Police State. Buy it or stream it now at salemnow.com. Salemnow.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Our dry weather pattern continues today, but a weak cold front sneaks by this morning, bringing some clouds and slightly cooler air. So a mix of clouds and sun with a high this afternoon around 43. Partly cloudy tonight, down to 26 early Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny, back up to about 41. Friday looking dry as well, but we're still watching for a little light rain, possibly mixed with some wet snowflakes this weekend. The snow will not stick to the pavement, so no significant travel impact expected. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Are you ready for a healthier, more prosperous you here in 2024? Well, I got just the place for you. Holistic comprehensive care can be found at none other than Comprehensive Chiropractic and Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare. Let me tell you about these two awesome businesses under one roof in my hometown of Eureka. Pretty much 20 minutes maybe from everywhere in the county of St. Louis. Comprehensive Chiropractic is a place that I've been visiting for nearly 2 decades. The docs there are fantastic. They also focus on sports performance. My kids have gone there as well because my daughters are very active. One's a swimmer, one's a runner. They've all been to Comprehensive. Suzanne's been there. We've all been there, the whole family, and they've made us all feel better with our day-to-day aches and pains. Now, Comprehensive has launched Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare. You've heard me talk to Dr. Kim Patton several times here at News Talk STL. She focuses on natural solutions for neuropathy and nerve discomfort. What the heck is peripheral neuropathy? All kinds of symptoms. You know, folks with diabetes suffer from this. It results in numbness and tingling and burning pain and deep stabbing pain at the extremities of your body. Yes, it is horrible. It is debilitating. However, there is hope. There's lots of hope. Dr. Kim Patton, her team at Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare have developed the Restore Neuropathy Program. 95% success rate, improving the symptoms of neuropathy from 61 to 100%. People have literally gotten their lives back. It's amazing. You should check it out for yourself and your loved ones as well. Both businesses located literally right next door to each other in beautiful Eureka, Missouri. Comprehensive Chiropractic can be found 24/7 at cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com for all your neuropathy needs. Comprehensive Integrative Healthcare, CIH.health, CIH.health. Let's all get healthier comprehensively at Comprehensive Chiropractic.
The news and talk that affects St. Louis.
We say to the Hamas terrorists, we see you and we will reach you.
Growing tensions for U.S. forces in the Middle East.
This is 101.9 and 94.1.
We should step up and be more aggressive.
News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon, good evening. Once again, welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. You are listening to us at 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, perhaps streaming us at newstalkstl.com, listening to us worldwide on one of our apps or one of your streaming platforms like Rumble, Facebook, etc., and so forth. Welcome back to the program. We are broadcasting live from beneath the Capitol Dome. We're in the third floor rotunda, also commonly referred to as the Hall of Famous Missourians, right outside the old House chamber and looking across at the Senate. Everybody's packed up and gone home for the day, or they may be plotting all kinds of nefarious moves here at the beginning of session. We have had the opportunity, Chris, to speak to a whole host of Missouri state senators and representatives and statewide elected officials, and now we're joined by Missouri's Attorney General, Andrew Bailey. He's at AG Andrew Bailey on Twitter. Mr. Attorney General, welcome back to the program. Can you believe it's been 1 year, I think, since we all sat down here after you were just sworn into office?
Yeah, that's right. It's been a heck of a year. You know, we've done a lot to fight and win for the people of the state of Missouri. Proud of the accomplishments, the wins we've notched, but we've got more work to do, and we haven't hit our ceiling yet.
Mr. Attorney General, the Maine Secretary of State recently took the unilateral decision to decide that Donald Trump cannot be on the ballot. If that happened here, I don't think that it will. Would the Attorney General's office have any role in reversing that or litigating that at all?
Absolutely. We represent the state of Missouri in court and would bring litigation to put a stop to that. Look, this is all specious legal reasoning. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment was intended to prevent former Confederate leaders from rejoining Congress without some sort of process. It has nothing to do with President Trump being on state ballots for the presidential race in 2024. So there is no authority for the Secretary of State of Maine to unilaterally deprive the voting public of an opportunity to vote for what could be their chosen candidate.
Yeah, Mr. Attorney General, this is it. This is once again the left. The left is attacking our basic institutions,
That's right.
isn't
Yeah.
it? Whether it's the Electoral College, whether it's the Supreme Court, whether it's deciding who voters in a state get to vote for. This is no matter what your feelings may or may not be about Donald Trump,
Yeah.
this is a dangerous attack on. They're the ones attacking democracy, aren't
That's
they?
right. Yeah. In the name of, trying to preserve democracy, they're perverting democracy to achieve a political objective. We used to elevate the rules of the game above the players and the outcomes. And the left has completely jettisoned that approach to their own detriment. That's bad for everyone. It undermines the rule of law, and we all suffer for it. It's deplorable. They should be ashamed of themselves. We need to hold them accountable.
Mr. Attorney General, you had a editorial printed in the Kansas City Red Star a couple of days ago. Tell us a little bit about that editorial.
Yeah, look, I believe in free speech. I believe in the right to keep and bear arms. And what we see across the nation is radical progressive tyrants who want to attack both of those principles. The NRA is involved in litigation against the state of New York on that issue. And I stand as an NRA member, as a gun owner, as someone who believes in the right to keep and bear arms and to speak out about that. It's important that leaders across the state, across the nation, stand up for those constitutional principles. I would also point out, the Constitution exists to protect us from the government, and the government exists to protect our rights. But again, this is another example of the left perverting the rule of law, undermining the rule of law to attack political opponents and stifle debate on these types of issues when our right to do so is given to us by God, not man, and is protected by the Constitution.
Speaking to Attorney General Andrew Bailey, the Attorney General of the state of Missouri, he's at AG Andrew Bailey on Twitter. Mr. Attorney General, as a recovering attorney myself, a former prosecutor, I still do pay attention very much to the big cases that are moving through our Missouri state court system and through our national federal court system. One of those I've been following is Missouri versus Biden. Missouri at the forefront of protecting another one of our rights, and that's our First Amendment rights. Would you remind our listeners how did that case start? What is it about, and what is the current status of it?
Yeah, and thanks for covering this important issue. This is the most important First Amendment suit in this nation's history, and I'm so proud to be leading that effort. And the case style be Missouri v. Biden. Hundreds of years from now, first-year law students will crack open their constitutional law book and read the case of Missouri v. Biden and see that at this time, in this place, we took a stand to support and defend the Constitution and protect our right to free speech. This lawsuit was started by my predecessor, Attorney General Eric Schmidt, who did a fantastic job of identifying this issue, flagging it, and attacking it. We took the evidence that he had, gathered more evidence, preliminary discovery, 20,000 pages of documents, numerous depositions, and we went to court in May of this year under my administration, amended the pleadings to add additional facts and allegations, additional evidence, and asked the court to issue a nationwide injunction to build a wall of separation between tech and state to protect our First Amendment right to free speech. We've seen a relationship of coercion and collusion from the federal government across a spectrum of bureaucratic agencies targeting conservative speech for censorship on big tech social media platforms. Remember in 2020 when people started getting booted off social media and they started self-censoring because these elusive censorship algorithms were filtering their speech for censorship. Those censorship algorithms were changed to satisfy the demands of federal officials, and they targeted exclusively conservative speech. This is a clear violation of the First Amendment. The idea behind the First Amendment is to have a free, fair, and open marketplace of ideas where those ideas can compete. It's been described as the battlefield ideas, but what happens is cowards who can't compete on that battlefield of ideas because their ideas aren't as good need to silence the other side, and that's what the Biden administration is doing.
Mr. Attorney General, you do a lot of radio shows. You've been on News Talk STL many times, the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Recently, I think the other day, you were on 93.9 The Eagle. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch accuses you of lying about plaintiffs' religious views in abortion litigation, quote unquote. What's that all about?
Yeah, look, I mean, the Pravda Dispatch
sounds
never
like a badge of honor.
Or
post disgrace.
That's right. Look, judge me by my enemies. I've been sued by the Planned Parenthood, the ACLU, called all sorts of bad names by the Pravda Dispatch, who consistently uses the most, the worst picture they can find of me, and that's fine. You do this kind of job, you expect that kind of stuff. But look, it's important to note that I support the health and safety of women and children. I think every life has value. As someone who's been a foster parent, who's adopted kids out of the foster system, I want Missouri to be the safest state in the nation for children. And what I see is radical progressives who are pushing these initiative petitions. They want you to think it's some benign, fundamental right that they're going to codify in the Constitution. But what they want to do is transform Missouri into California and turn every abortion into a back alley abortion by overturning long-standing Missouri law and getting the government completely out of any safety protocols or regulation to ensure the safety of women and children. That's dangerous. I think that the public needs to understand that information, have that information as they go to the ballot box in the coming days, weeks, and months.
Attorney General Andrew Bailey, just because Kim Gardner is no longer the circuit attorney, the lead prosecuting attorney of the city of St. Louis, doesn't mean that all of the crime and punishment issues in the city of St. Louis vanished overnight, right?
That's right.
There's a lot more work to be done. What can and should the role of the Attorney General's office be to ensure that our urban areas don't continue to decline and decay because of the criminal element, which has been left unchecked now for decades?
Well, that's right. And again, it goes back to undermining the rule of law. And victims have rights too under our state constitution, our state statute. And what we saw in St. Louis was a deplorable, unlawful refusal of that woman to do her job. As a social experiment gone terribly wrong, and blood ran in the street. Victims suffered. We all suffered. That one woman was holding the whole state hostage. Proud of the efforts that my office led to remove her, and we were ultimately successful. We've traveled. There are 46 judicial circuits in the state of Missouri. We've traveled circuit by circuit since this time last year, met with prosecutors, sheriffs, and police chiefs to reintroduce ourselves in the criminal justice system. And we've seen a 133% increase last year in the number of requests for my office to come in and prosecute violent offenders at the trial court level. That resulted in 19 convictions after jury trials, 35 guilty pleas, 5 murder convictions. We handle 100% of felony appeals. So all of the cases come to us after the police catch them, prosecutors lock them up. We spend the next 5, 15, 20 years making sure they stay locked up. I think with that 133% increase in requests for my office to prosecute, it demonstrates that we're effectively deploying the state resources that we have in the fight against violent crime, and we're going to continue to do that into next year.
Mr. Attorney General, we noted at the beginning of the interview that you're entering your first full year as Attorney General. Political junkies like me and Tim know your biography, know your history, but to listeners that may not know it, who is Andrew Bailey and how did you become Attorney General? What got you to this point?
Well, blessed beyond measure to be here, and I'm motivated. I've got 4 small children. I have 4 small children, ages 11, 9, 5, and 18 months. And it motivates me every day to get up, get them ready, put them on the school bus to go to school, and to realize that we've inherited a legacy of freedom, of safety, of prosperity. And we, as stewards of the authority given to us, we have to protect and defend that. And we're under attack right now. I grew up in mid-Missouri, went to Mizzou on an Army ROTC scholarship, volunteered for combat duty in Iraq upon graduation, served 2 deployments in Iraq in a combat arms role, leading soldiers in combat. It was a privilege to get to do that. Came home, worked as an armed guard at a courthouse in the Jeff Vanderloo neighborhood of St. Louis.
That's a part of your story that I like. I was going to remind you. You didn't say the security guard in your bio.
Yeah. I went from commanding 13 platoons in Iraq to wearing a revolver at the front door of the courthouse at Vandeventure and Delmar. So I got, lived in the city of St. Louis and saw some of the issues there firsthand. Went back to Mizzou, post 9/11 GI Bill, and was dedicated to become a prosecuting attorney. Got to do that right after graduation, and dedicated my life to holding wrongdoers accountable, finding justice for victims, making Missouri the safest state in the nation for children. Once I also was an attorney for the county juvenile office, adopted kiddos out of the foster system. Couldn't afford to be an assistant prosecuting attorney anymore. Went to work at the Missouri Department of Corrections on June 1st, 2018. Important date in this state's history, the date Governor Parson took office. And, he was building a staff as he was going. And he saw me working at Department of Corrections, and after a few months pulled me up to work on his staff. Happened to be in the right place at the right time, to have this opportunity to serve the people of the state of Missouri and to again, fight and win for the people of the state. We are in conflict right now. Yeah. We're in conflict with the enemies of freedom, the enemies of safety, the enemies of prosperity. And I take my warrior ethos seriously in defending Missourians and our constitutional rights.
So, Mr. Attorney General, by the way, folks, we're speaking to Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. He can be found at AG Andrew Bailey on Twitter. Mr. Attorney General, we're at the dawn of another legislative session. The executive branch plays a role in the legislative session because the executive branch is always looking and searching for ways for it to do its job better. What is on the legislative agenda of the Attorney General's office as we launch into the regular session here?
Yeah, I'm excited to see the bills that get moving. I think that continuing to shore up the criminal justice system is imperative. We cannot go back to the status quo. We've got to always be finding ways to get better. The old way of doing business is insufficient, unacceptable. We owe the people of the state of Missouri more. I think that amendments to Senate Bill 49 to repeal the sunset provision to protect kids.
What would that do?
Yeah, that would end. So right now, last year, the General Assembly enacted a statute. Governor signed signed into law that protects children from radical transgender experimentation and protects them from these irreversible administration of dangerous drugs and irreversible surgeries. There's a sunset provision where that law will expire. I think it's important to repeal that sunset provision to ensure that ban on experimentation of young children who are confused about their gender. We need to keep that ban in place to protect those kids. Again, these are dangerous drugs. There's no science or medicine behind the treatments that were being used, and the ban is absolutely correct and appropriate based on all the evidence that we have that we used to defend the statute from legal attack several months ago. So I think that's an important amendment to Senate Bill 49. Excited to see what the legislature does on those issues.
And speaking of that Washington University situation, didn't you have to file a lawsuit a few weeks ago because they weren't turning over information? Give us more
Yeah. If you recall, back in February of last year, shortly after I took office, a whistleblower came forward and made some very specific and credible allegations and sworn testimony. I mean, this wasn't just like a random constituent call. This is someone that was willing to put their name on the dotted line and subject themselves to perjury. And so we had to take those allegations seriously, conducted an investigation, simultaneously called for a moratorium on these dangerous procedures to protect kids, did everything we could to stand in the gap in the interim, give the General Assembly time to enact Senate Bill 49, which they ultimately did. And then we successfully defended that statute in court. We were the first state in the nation to win that issue at the trial court level. Very proud of the work we've done on this, but that doesn't mean the investigation goes away. We received one batch of documents, realized we needed more documents from this clinic. And again, this is about determining what went wrong here to ensure that the proper systems that are in place to prevent it from ever happening again. The clinic then declined to turn over the second batch of subpoenaed documents. And, we have every reason to believe that the Biden administration whispered in their ear and dissuaded them from complying with our lawful subpoena. So we had to file suit to enforce the right of the state to investigate these matters and to hold wrongdoers accountable.
Mr. Attorney General, this is an election year. The primary is in August. The general election, of course, is in November. You are seeking a full term from the voters of the state of Missouri. What's been your message out on the campaign trail, and what are you hearing from folks all across the Show Me State?
Hey, look, it is exciting to get out there and energizing to interact with the people of the state of Missouri. We get so much positive energy everywhere we go because they see the work we're doing. This is the Show Me State. Results matter. And after a year in office, after 365 days in office, we can talk about removing the Soros-backed prosecutor in the city of St. Louis. That's a problem that had been around for years. We took action and got rid of her. We can talk about shutting down these experimental, transgender clinics that were harming kids. Again, we demonstrated incredible leadership on that issue and led the nation in a lot of ways on that. We can talk about Missouri v. Biden, defending our right to free speech, going all the way to the United States Supreme Court. I can talk about the other 27 lawsuits we have pending right now against the Biden administration to ensure that we're protecting our constitutional rights and our state sovereignty as well. We can talk about the 19 convictions on criminal jury trials. We can talk about the $32 million recovered in our Consumer Protection Division, $12 million of that in restitution checks that goes back into hardworking Missourian families' pockets at a time of terrible inflation under Bidenomics. So, I'm motivated again to preserve, protect, and defend that legacy of freedom, of safety, and prosperity, and hand it off to our kids, our grandkids, in better condition than we found it, because we're under attack right now, and it's going to take a warrior to fight back.
One final thing. Is the Attorney General's office still helping the city of St. Louis prosecute their backlog of cases?
Yeah, we kept 100 cases from the city of St. Louis in order to try to assist in popping that bubble, and we'll continue to assist prosecutors across the state when they have those sorts of issues and need help. We have 22 prosecutors on staff. I come from a prosecutor's office. That's where my heart is. And so, assisting to ensure that victims have their justice and their day in court as well. Look, so many of these victims that are harmed by violent offenders, they serve a life sentence. And so protecting their rights that's granted to them under the Missouri Constitution is really important work that we do at the AG's office.
Where may folks find you and the Attorney General's office online?
Yeah, check us out at ago.mo.gov. That's ago.mo.gov. You can follow all the work we're doing. If you got a sunshine law complaint or you've got a consumer protection issue, we're happy to help you out with that. We've updated our website to try to make it more user-friendly and serve our constituents and continue and fight and win for the people of the state of Missouri.
Excellent. Godspeed to you, Mr. Attorney General.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on, friends.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Andrew Bailey at AG Andrew Bailey on Twitter. The Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show rolls on. Chris, I think we have a current Speaker of the House lurking around us. We're going to speak with him. I know we have Adam Schwadron, who's a candidate for statewide office for Secretary of State.
That should be it. Shouldn't the show be over after that?
We may even found a Democrat as well.
What?
I think we might be talking to Steve Butts. We'll fit them all in before we wrap things up here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Go nowhere. Lots more show ahead from the Missouri Capitol. 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Our dry weather pattern continues today, but a weak cold front sneaks by this morning, bringing some clouds and slightly cooler air. So a mix of clouds and sun with a high this afternoon around 43. Partly cloudy tonight, down to 26 early Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny, back up to about 41. Friday looking dry as well, but we're still watching for a little light rain, possibly mixed with some wet snowflakes this weekend. The snow will not stick to the pavement, so no significant travel impact expected. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
To have our great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke.
News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion.
Well, we're all putting away the holiday and the Christmas lights, aren't we? But did you know it is now landscape lighting season at Pro Outdoor and at your homestead? Tim Jones here for Pro Outdoor. Pro Outdoor offers low voltage landscape lighting that can really make your home stand out for your neighbors. And to prove this point, why do we all put holiday and Christmas lights up on our homes? Because we want them to stand out. How about having that 24/7 in really tasteful fashion? Accent lighting, path or step lighting, expanding your outdoor living spaces, or just looking for a little more security around your homestead. Pro Outdoor, your outdoor lighting experts. And as we head through the winter months and start thinking about spring, Pro Outdoor can also take care of everything else around your yard: fertilization, lawn care, irrigation installation and service, and of course, landscape lighting, as I mentioned. I've been a customer and a client of Pro Outdoor for many years. We've got that awesome irrigation system I often talk about, and I'm looking into landscape lighting myself as well because I know that they have such a commitment to quality. That's their highest priority at Pro Outdoor. To learn more about all the services they offer, I want you to check them out 24/7 at ProOutdoor.com. That's ProOutdoor.com.
Hello, my name is Chad Clayman with Clayman Group, where you can find us online at ClaymanGroup.com, KLAMEN Group.com. Do you have a house that you'd like to sell as is and not deal with the market? Maybe you have a tenant not paying the rent or a house in disrepair, and you want a simple solution for your sale? We've been in business for over 88 years, and we've helped thousands of people sell their house in as-is condition with no middleman involved. Reach out today at ClaymanGroup.com, KLAMEN Group.com, and receive an offer today.
The Freedom Principle and News Talk STL invite you to a special St. Louis City Town Hall on Friday, January 12th at the Immaculate Heart of Mary Church. Join moderator Tim Jones and expert panelists for a crucial discussion, Building a Better, Safer St. Louis City. Learn what legislators are doing in Jefferson City to protect and build a safer community for all citizens. The St. Louis City Town Hall is free and open to the public. Visit freedomprinciplemO.org for more information.
Tony Colombo here for Cadre Asset Management. A cadre is defined as a small group of people specially trained for a particular purpose or profession, and that is the role that Cadre Asset Management can play in your financial journey. Learn more about how they can help secure your financial future by following Cadre Asset Management on Facebook, or just go to cadreassetmgmt.com.
Cadre Asset Management is a Missouri-based independent advisory firm licensed under and securities and investment advisory services offered through Founders Financial Securities, LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. I'm not sure. We have lasted almost 3 hours, but maybe we pushed it, Chris,
we
this
may
year.
have.
And I think we're on air, so we're going to assume.
Let's do it.
We're going to keep rocking and rolling.
All right.
Okay, this is the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. It is January the 3rd, 2024. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. We're at the dawn of another legislative session. And that means two of the most important people in the building are the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the Missouri House. We have the current Speaker of the House, one of my successors, Dean Plocker, is joining us this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, thanks for being with us today.
Speaker Jones, great to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you guys for having me. It's another exciting year.
It really is. And so, Speaker Plocker, a lot on the plate this year, right? A lot to get to, a lot of unfinished business. What are going to be your priorities in these early days of session?
Well, I want to be optimistic. I think we've all heard that this year is maybe not going to be as bountiful as other years, but that's just, I think that's fodder. We are going to work on a lot of things that are challenging Missouri. Crime, for example. There's far too much crime. We have to recruit and retain police officers. We need to address the fentanyl problem that we have going on. So those are going to be some big things we tackled last year. The governor happened to veto that bill. So we're going to work on the vetoes the governor was concerned with, the components, hopefully get that bill out of the House sooner than later, and hopefully impress upon the Senate that they should take that up quickly as well. That's just one thing. I mean, choice, right? You need to have choices in this country. And one of the American dreams, components of the American dream is education. And we have to
we're going to switch headsets real fast. There we go. Put that microphone. There you go.
I'm out.
Oh,
are we good? There we go.
We are really good. Yeah.
Sorry, I was given a headset.
This is live radio, folks.
There we go. It is live. So, hey, moving on. So we have to have choice in education, I think. Getting parents involved in their kids' education is paramount to the American dream. Giving children a great education. I think we have to put our children first so often as we should do that with parents' choice. And I look forward to passing the open enrollment bill, Parents' Bill of Rights, getting parents more involved in their children's education. That's going to be a big priority. As we often, I know Speaker Jones, you and I, Chris, we live on the eastern side of the state, but the western side of the state is plagued by the same problem. And that is the disproportionate increase in our property taxes. We are taxing people out of their American dream. Owning a home is part of the American dream. And when our taxes go up for our houses and the appraisals are ridiculous, our taxes are going through the roof. You and I know that if we wanted to assert a tax on the Missouri people, it has to go to the ballot through the Hancock Amendment. But that's not the case with property taxes. There is nothing about checks and balances on how our property taxes can go up. They can go up 25%. There's no check to
we need to stop encouraging people to move to Florida, right?
Yeah, well, that too. But, I mean, I love Missouri. Missouri's the greatest place to call home as far as I'm concerned, but our property taxes need to be put into check.
Mr. Speaker, we've asked every single legislator at this table today about gambling. It's been a big issue the last couple of sessions. It hasn't gotten across the line. A lot of people are in favor of this, and a lot of ordinary citizens who don't follow politics as closely as we do, who want this, are asking, why can't this get across the finish line? What's your view?
Well, I think you guys are sitting on the right side of this building. You're sitting on the House side where we pass sportsbook. I myself filed the sportsbook bill probably 6 years ago. I prefer sportsbook being legal. I think it needs to be properly regulated. Right. I don't want the platforms in China or Russia on how they're being managed. I want sportsbook passed. I just got off another show and we were kind of handicapped that. I don't know. It might be the handicap if the Chiefs win in the Super Bowl. You think they should play better? But, maybe their better days are ahead, and I'm not going to give up on that. We're going to pass that bill, I hope, out of the House shortly, too.
Folks, we're speaking to Missouri Speaker of the House, Dean Plocher. He's a state representative from the St. Louis side of the state. He is the leader of the Missouri House as they embark on another legislative session. Mr. Speaker, you touched on crime when you talked about one of your priorities. I mean, this needs to be an issue where rural Republicans and suburban and urban Democrats need to come together as one, right? This should not be a partisan issue because the more that our urban areas decline and decay, that's going to convince even more people to want to move, out of the cities, out of the counties, maybe even out of the state. We got to do something about crime, don't we, in our regions?
We certainly do. I mean, I think Gabe Gore coming in and serving as prosecutor in the city has been good ever since the other lady left. Our prosecutions have gone up. I believe our murder rate has perhaps gone down, which is what we exactly want. But we need to get more police officers there to hold people accountable. We need to recruit them. We need to retain them. And we have to hold people accountable. And I don't see that happening as many places because I think we need more boots on the ground. And we need to show the law enforcement officers that we have their back.
I may be showing my ignorance here with two former speakers, a former speaker and a speaker of the House, so you guys can educate me. Does the speaker file bills, and what legislation have you filed and that you are pushing this session?
The speaker, I don't know. I can't speak for Speaker Jones. I don't know if he filed any bills when he was in office as speaker. I don't file that. I don't think I even filed one last year, but I did file a House resolution today that's important to me. And that declares our support for Israel. Harry Truman being from Missouri, of course, was the first to declare Israel's existence in 1948. And I want to support that. I think what is happening to the Israeli citizens, its people as a whole, is deplorable. It's horrible what they're having to experience, and I'm going to stand on the side of the Israelis and the people and support them. So that was my House resolution. I think Missourians should stand for Israel.
Mr. Speaker, the Republican supermajorities in the House and Senate have grown over recent years to historic majorities. We have a Republican governor. There always seems to be a lot of great ideas and great legislation on the plate and in the pipeline every year. But it seems like even with our lengthy session, things get log jammed and locked down at the end. And it seems that leadership comes to loggerheads a lot of times. Are you going to maybe try to move things a little earlier and quicker to try to avoid that this year to get some of these priorities across the finish line?
You know, every year is different. We're talking to the Senate, and a lot of meetings over there tomorrow again. But we also have tried to do some things a little bit differently. We asked the budget chair, it was Cody Smith, done a great job, brought the budget committees and subcommittees in December to start a preemptive early discussion about how the budget looks. It's going to be a different budget this year than it was in years past. As we all know, Biden and those guys dumped a ton of money on the states, which is now we have inflation to thank for that. That money isn't going to be dumped into Missouri. So our budget has to be even tighter, if you will. And we have a reserve, which I want to keep because we all know the rainy day will come back. So if we can maybe get that budget addressed earlier, we have an FRA issue that we have to address as well.
Would you explain what that is?
It's the federal reimbursement allowance. It allows hospitals and a lot of our medical providers to get reimbursed based upon some sort of like retaining tax that they impose upon themselves. It's pretty thick in the weeds. But if we don't pass an FRA, it's I quoted earlier today as it being 3.5 to 4 billion. I've received an updated number. It's about $4.3 billion. That's the latest number I just got about an hour ago. A $4.3 billion hit to our budget that we cannot afford to have if we don't pass an FRA. It's a unique deep dive on that, but it's a budgetary reimbursement from the federal government that if we don't pass it, we lose out on $4.3 billion. We have a $50 billion budget. That's almost 10% of our budget that would have to take a hit if we don't pass that. So I think Missourians cannot afford not to pass it.
Mr. Speaker, the governor yesterday had a press conference on his executive order on the foreign ownership of land. We've asked everyone here at the table today their thoughts on it. Would you like to share your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm glad he recognizes that we don't want foreign adversaries owning land in Missouri. Whether it goes far enough, we're going to refer the bill. Representative Hafner from Cass County has carried that bill in the House as we refer for that bill through the process. I don't want foreign adversaries owning land in Missouri, but I do want responsible investment by foreign companies that are good. We have, in my district, we have Bayer right there. We have, Ralston Purina was bought out by Nestle in Switzerland. Those are good investors in our state that employ solid jobs and are good for our state. But we need to articulate where the evil entities are. I think we can do that properly. And I don't want Chinese balloons flying over the state. I want to protect our land. I want to protect our property rights.
Speaker Plocher, one of the issues that have plagued the legislature is what to do with the so-called citizen-led initiative petition process. In the last 20 years, Republicans have done things like cut taxes and protect life and protect our Second Amendment rights. And the left now has no control necessarily underneath the Capitol dome. And so they're running to the ballot box with a lot of well-funded special interests. And you were leading the charge on some reform to that process. So Missourians' voices are really heard at the ballot box and not just left-wing billionaires who cloak things in very attractive ballot candy. Is that going to be a priority this year? Can we do something to prevent the hijacking of all these Republican goals?
It certainly is a priority. It's been a priority of the House for the last 6 years. I carried the bill for 3 years. Representative Henderson has carried it for the last 3. I believe we passed it the last 6 years. The Senate, again, it's gone to die. It's very important to me, though, to articulate the difference between an initiative petition that affects our Constitution versus an initiative petition that's just statutory. We have out-of-state billionaires, George Soros for one, that dumps a lot of money in Missouri, that puts an initiative petition out there. They get your signatures at Walmart. They pay people to collect signatures. People are, freezing out in the cold at Walmart. They want to quickly sign something. They go in, they get the signatures. They use the ballot candy, as you said, Tim, to put it out there, and they get people to sign that. And that goes into our Constitution. I don't think that's good for Missourians. I don't think the laws that we're putting in our Constitution, which is a sacred document, is well vetted, and I don't believe it's very transparent. So I think the threshold needs to be higher. I think it needs to be better explained. And I don't like these outside interests coming to Missouri and telling me how to live or Missourians how to live when they just use their money and they don't even touch foot in the state.
Mr. Speaker, our first guest today was former Senator Bob Onder, who has announced that he is running for lieutenant governor. You are in the last term of your speakership. You have announced for lieutenant governor as well. How's your campaign doing? What's going on?
I'm not in campaign mode. I know others may be. I guess I signed up to be the Speaker of the House. I didn't sign up to be the state representative. This is a privilege to have this office. This is an honor. I enjoy looking out and seeing 162 colleagues as we work together to pass legislation.
Even the Democrats?
Well, they're nice too. I actually try to get along. Okay. We get along. It's the contentiousness up here is nothing really like the press often portrays it to be. I will tell you that. I have a lot of good friends that are on the other side of the aisle. We just don't philosophically agree on some of these issues. But it's an honor to serve. My duty is to the people to serve my term, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the policy debates, the policy discussions. I think people want things to get done. I don't believe in this divisive politics, this name calling, this polarization of politics today. That's the wrong way to approach. We need to start acting like responsible citizens, come to the table, work together, and pass things that are good for the state. And that's why I'm here.
What priorities from the bills that you've seen filed already and from the discussions within the caucus, what priorities do you think the caucus would like to see you and House leadership move first through the pipeline?
Well, I think the crime bill clearly moved through the pipeline last year, vetoed by the governor, is right up there.
Why did that happen? Can you explain that?
There was some expungement components within that bill that got put on again in the Senate. I hate to blame everything on the Senate.
I did too. It's easy.
Sort of the truth. We that's huge. I mean, crime is all over the state. It's not just St. Louis. It's not just Jackson County. It's in Greene County, Boone, all over the state. So the members really want that addressed. The taxes. Right. Mm-hmm. Last year, we passed a great tax cut for Social Security to help our seniors not have to pay taxes that they'd already paid taxes on. I think it's important that we look at the property taxes. Why are we taxing people out of the American dream? I think there needs to be accountability on how we're taxing our citizens, and it needs to be predictable. It needs to be transparent and understood. And I think these appraisals are out of control. We have a budget that has to be properly managed. You hire us to come up here to be fiscally responsible. I think we need to act fiscally responsible and pass a balanced budget. We're going to do that this year. We have a sundry of things. We have to look at how we're getting our energy resources. The federal government, how often do you hear the Biden administration's throwing down a new order on our people on how we're going to get our energy? They're mandating that we close coal plants and that we have to somehow miraculously dream up a way to produce energy. Our people need to be able to turn their lights on, turn the heat on, run the AC, run the refrigerator. Where are we going to get the energy to do that when the federal government's using its heavy hand to tell us that we have to close our coal plants? I think we have to make sure that we are protecting our energy infrastructure and how we produce our energy in the state of Missouri. That will be looked at as well. We also have to look at how they're trying to use Missouri and our property rights, right? I think property is one of the tenements that we have in the state where we respect our property rights, where you just can't come and take, right? So this eminent domain that, in my opinion, is being abused by these out-of-state utility companies that are trying to use high-energy transmission wires to pump energy from Kansas to Ohio and using Missouri's land and our property is fodder for providing cheaper energy back east. That's not what we're here for. We're here to protect Missouri's property and our property rights as citizens. So I think members want to look at that as well.
Full plate indeed. Mr. Speaker, we'll let you get to it. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Where can folks find you on social media or online?
I'm not the strongest on social media. My name is Dean Plocker, and you could probably Google that. You might not, but I have a Twitter handle. I don't really manage it so much, nor do I Facebook. I've gotten to the point where I think a lot of social media is just a lot of drama. And I don't believe everything I read and everything I hear.
Well, that's why we appreciate the face-to-face conversation. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you. You have a great year.
Godspeed to you throughout the session. Absolutely. That was Speaker Dean Plocker of the Missouri House of Representatives. Chris, can you believe it? We have done almost an entire 3-hour show. We have one segment left, and we're going to speak to Missouri State Representative Adam Schwadron, who's running for Secretary of State, and We found a Democrat here in this Republican supermajority. We found the one in the building that wasn't afraid to come on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. We'll talk to Representative Steve Butts as well next as we wrap things up here in the Missouri State Capitol. 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Our dry weather pattern continues today, but a weak cold front sneaks by this morning, bringing some clouds and slightly cooler air. So a mix of clouds and sun with a high this afternoon around 43. Partly cloudy tonight, down to 26 early Thursday. Tomorrow afternoon, mostly sunny, back up to about 41. Friday, looking dry as well, but we're still watching for a little light rain, possibly mixed with some wet snowflakes this weekend. The snow will not stick to the pavement, so no significant travel impact expected. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
Breaking news, the former president of Harvard, Claudine Gay, is now going to teach a course in plagiarism. Kidding.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Love talking about my bank, Royal Banks of Missouri. They've been around since 1964. That's 2 years longer than I've been on this earth. So you know they're not going anywhere. You can look them up. Royal Banks of Missouri has some of the highest ratings for financial stability and strength. They are a community bank, so they're not some out-of-town big bank that you're just a number and they don't have personal relationships with you. They do at Royal Banks of Missouri. Royal Banks of Missouri has 17 locations. They have locations in St. Charles, Missouri, Hannibal, Missouri, across the river in Jerseyville, and in Granite City. Royal Banks of Missouri also has 200 free ATMs across the Midwest, so you can get your money when you need it. Whether you need wealth management, personal or business checking, mortgages, Royal Banks of Missouri has you covered. Visit my friends Royal Bank online at royalbanksmo.com, royalbanksmo.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank that is in your community.
It may be cold outside, but one of the best ways to warm up this winter is with a visit to Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge, Missouri. Located 10 minutes from 270 in Gravois, Johnny's is the go-to St. Louis sports bar and grill experience featuring over 30 big TVs, full bar, excellent, awesome food featuring the famous Johnny Dow's chicken wings, live music with local musicians, and a huge game room. Johnny's Hideout opens 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Check out the speaker of the house table on your next visit. More information, jhideout.com. That's jhideout.com. Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. It is 5:47 in the Missouri State Capitol. And Tim, we have had one full show.
Jeff Allen works us like a dog. I think this is a violation of various Fair Labor Standards Acts.
Exactly. We had an extra
matters.
hour today, and it seems like we did like a 6-hour show.
Do we get a bonus check for all this?
We'll probably have to talk with Jeff about that after.
Actually,
the
Joey's
show.
the boss in this operation.
Exactly.
Hey,
exactly.
Big shout out to producer
Yes.
and engineer, producer Joey Bosovich, who has been sitting here patiently dealing with all of us lunatics. Joey, thanks for everything
Thank
today.
you, Joey.
Always do such
Always
awesome
makes it so easy.
work. Yes.
Tim, we've got two final guests with us. We've got Representative Steve Butts, the sole Democrat that is
We
joining
found
us today.
one. Wait,
and
I'm the sole Democrat?
You're the
You're
only
on the air
one
for 3 hours?
You're the only one. Yeah.
You're the nicest and sane one we could find. Yeah.
And we have Representative Adam Schwadron, District 105
Yes.
in St. Charles County. My first question,
Candidate
for Lieutenant Governor.
No, Secretary
No,
of State.
no, Governor.
Secretary of State.
Treasurer.
I'm flattered you
You're
want me
running
for all these offices, but
All right.
no, it's just Secretary of State.
Secretary of State, Adam Schwadron, District 105. My first question is for Representative Steve Butts.
Yes, Chris.
Representative, my wife and I went on a cruise back in September, and on the ship we went to go see a movie called The Exorcist.
You did,
and I learned after doing some research on that movie that you have a relative that had a starring role in The Exorcist.
It's
So
true.
you're holding out on us. Tell us about
Chris,
your famous relative.
So I'm the oldest of 11 kids, right? And if you're going to have 11 kids, somebody has to be your rich, famous brother. And that's my brother, Norbert Leo Butts. He is well known, world famous in some
He's got a
circles.
Tony Award.
2 Tony Awards.
Oh, I didn't know 2. Wow.
He's worked on a Grammy, and he does not have an Oscar nomination. So until he gets that, he's out of the will.
Before I go on,
he's a great guy.
There was a series on Netflix that I watched.
There was.
It was only like Bloodline.
Bloodline.
And when I was watching The Exorcist, I was like, I know that guy. I remember, and I was like, oh, he was in Bloodline. I looked him up, and that's when I saw that he was related to you.
He's my brother. We do some singing together. I mean, he's a great guy.
You do Hollywood
he's
stuff?
A wonderful entertainer.
You go to the red carpet stuff?
I have been to red carpet stuff, and we're a bit of a freak show. So if all 11 siblings and their wives come up for a red carpet show, we have done the red carpet thing. It's true.
Wow.
Got it.
We're in the space of celebrity here.
Yeah,
exactly.
It is fantastic.
I'm just the insurance guy from South St. Louis. But
Representative Adam Schwadron, you are in the Missouri House of Representatives with your colleague here across the aisle, and you're all launching into another legislative session. You're also at the same time a candidate for Secretary of State here in the state of Missouri. Tell us, first of all, what are your priorities as we begin the session, and how's the campaign going?
Well, the priorities for me, I've got several bills that I filed. I'd say one of my biggest priorities is the Nonprofit Safety and Security Task Force and Supplemental Fund. With everything that's happened in Israel and here in the United States with the increase in anti-Semitism, being the only practicing Jew of the House of Representatives, this bill means the world to me because it allows for extra protection to be provided to synagogues that are under terrorist threat all the time. All the calls that have come in. Apparently, there was a terrorist threat here on the building today.
Really?
I read the news, but I don't think they took it as a credible threat because the security here is great. But unfortunately, our synagogues, they don't have the same type of security that we have here. So they have to spend a lot of extra money in order to protect themselves.
Representative Steve Butts, we were joking about you being our lone Democrat today, which you are. But
we still love you.
Being and we do. Being in the super minority here, what's a guy like you do? Your bills are dead on the day the legislature starts. But my understanding is you've made a lot of friends across the aisle on issues that you have found bipartisan agreement on. Would you tell us about that? And you're kind of in the era of term limits, you're a wily old veteran up here now. So what's been your experience like, and what are you hoping to work on this year with the Republican supermajority?
So my experience is, and thankfully that Republican supermajority is getting smaller and smaller, and maybe within 2 years we can just eliminate the adjective super. I think when you come up here and you are in a position of relative weakness trying to pass a bill, it's critical that you meet people that have the best interest of their folks in the state at large at heart. And I have found many people like that. Adam sitting right here is one of them. And I tell a lot of people back in the city, they're like, how do you stand the craziness in Jeff City? And there is some craziness. It's funny, though, that the most extreme people to the far left and the far right, those are the ones that get some headlines. There's a whole lot of people within a really reasonable middle band that want to get stuff done. And you have to find those people. You co-sponsor bills with them. We did that, for example, we had to bring, and I really had to work hard with my caucus to get everybody to come across to support the transportation bill and to get the gas tax.
Okay.
That's a good example. And I think we batted 100%, and we needed every last one of them. And that work is going on throughout the state. So, you find the right people, you find the right issues. I think there's a lot of commonality with a lot of people.
Adam, you are in your second term as a state rep in St. Charles District 105. What would you say if someone criticized you and said you were a do-nothing state rep? How would you respond to that?
I'd say I've actually gotten quite a bit done. Porch piracy. It was a big issue here in Missouri. You show up to your house, you were told that there was a package on the porch, and lo and behold, it was stolen by someone. Well, last year we got that declared as a felony. So if someone's trespassing on your property, stealing the packages, they can now face some serious consequences, which would involve prison. There have been many other provisions, working on the elections committee, which is one of my passions, making sure that the bills that are going through there are more perfect. Working on that. I've had several provisions pass and other bills across the spectrum. The Holocaust education bill. So it's hard to get things done your first term because as a freshman, you're still trying to figure out where the bathrooms are. And it's like drinking water out of a fire hose.
Sure.
But I still got provisions done in bills in my freshman term. So I've gotten quite a bit accomplished. And that's why I'm okay that this will be my last session in the legislature. And looking forward to moving on as the next Secretary of State.
There you go.
To piggyback on that, just real quick, when we're in committee, I think Adam would also agree that's where a lot of the work actually gets done. It's not really done on the floor. The die is pretty well cast many times by the time we're ready to vote and debate. But you can offer amendments, and there's a chance for both, Democrats and Republicans to improve bills through the committee process. So can't emphasize that enough.
Representative Butts, you're from the St. Louis region, and the St. Louis region has been debilitated by crime over the last many decades. The far left's movement to defund the police has definitely not helped. However, I believe there was a bipartisan crime bill last year that made it to the governor's desk that he unfortunately vetoed. Did you support that bill? And if you did, why? And what do you think can be done on crime this year?
I did support the bill. That was a good bill on balance. I'd almost question the governor why he did veto it. The Blair's Law portion was really important. We had tons of celebratory gunfire just over the 4th of July, over New Year's
You almost
Eve.
can't
You sound like Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Good
like,
joke.
are you kidding me? Anyway, I've lived my entire life in the city. Is crime an issue? It is. It is probably the number one issue. Is it overstated by some people that don't live in the city that also have an agenda? I think at times it is. There's so many cool, neat parts of the city, great neighborhoods, great venues. But there is no doubt that gun violence in particular is a huge issue. It has been driving people out of the city for decades, and almost didn't matter who the chief of police was. I've always lived in the city. When I was born, there's 800,000 plus people. Now there's 290,000.
That's the turn of the century.
1959.
Okay.
1950.
You're just getting it from both sides here.
You guys remember the 50s. Anyway.
No.
Okay,
the Beaver was on.
Anyway, it's a never ending. I remember being a kid and growing up in the 60s and 70s, people worried about crime in the city. And what has changed, absolutely has changed, is the absolute proliferation of guns. I mean, just the number of guns you see on people's Ring doorbell cameras, kids walking around. And that is something that I'm just going to keep pushing. It is unreasonable to let 14-year-olds walk around and open carry a weapon. So,
gentlemen, I want to ask you one more question, Adam. We're about running out of time. We're running for Lieutenant Governor. Why are you
Secretary of State?
Or Secretary of State? Excuse me. God, I'm promoting him. Why are you the best Secretary of State candidate in less than a minute?
I'll just say that when it comes to the issues, I don't believe anyone else in this race cares about the issues as much as I do. I consider myself very conservative. I believe my voting record shows that. I listen to ideas. I'm open to listening to ideas, weighing them and making sure that everything about them is valid. And I think that when I get out there and I speak to the people, they hear my passion in elections, and that will carry me across the finish line.
That is Representative Adam Schwadron, and sitting with us also is Representative Steve Butts. Boy, it's been great here at the Capitol.
Thank you.
Happy New Year's,
to the
guys.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Larry Connors USA is next.
Getting a new floor for your home can be intimidating and a little scary. But that's not the case when you go to Michael's Flooring Outlet. Katie here, and my mom and dad used Michael's, and they had a great experience. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Shop in-store at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Dardine Prairie, or St. Peter's. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
Get charged up on the truth.